Class is in session. College football hitting the book show Monday, August 25th. Ian Cameron and Connor Mack with you, and this is our first massive show of the season. Obviously, we got our feet wet last week on Monday, talking week 0 with the 4 games on tap. This is that first show where it really, truly feels like it's back, baby. College football. We've got a huge slate, wall-to-wall games. As usual, the format that you know and love on this show for college football over the years. It ain't changing a bit. We're going to go through all the weeknight games, and there's a ton of weeknight games. This is always week 1, the week where we've got the most weeknight games, tons of Thursday night games, tons of Friday night games. We'll talk about each one, many of the marquee Saturday games, and yes, we have a doubleheader on Sunday and the annual Labor Day Monday night game, as always, in week 1, and we will talk about that as well. C-Mac, it's good start to the year, profitable. I'll take it. It was really the Western Kentucky game going over the total that pushed me toward plus units to start the season. That was my biggest bet by far. Kept everything else pretty much smaller over the weekend on Saturday, but it was nice to see college football back again. That being said, I do have a rant to start off with. I have no issues with the Dublin, Ireland showcase games. I have no issues with them. I'm okay with having them once a year. But you cannot, I'm sick of it now. You cannot start your college football season with that being the first game. You got to have something else going forward with the opening kickoff game, because too often these Dublin, Ireland games, the field's sloppy. You're going to get weather issues. You're going to get all kinds of stuff. And we saw it in that Iowa State, Kansas State game. I don't mind them trying to promote college football and sending the games out there to Ireland, but I don't like that they make that the first game of the season. Put it over here in North America, where in the States where college football is. That's what you should be doing, in my opinion. But Connor Mack, what did you think of the week 0 action?
Yeah, have it a little later, or another week even. But I guess that's the whole lure. And there's a push-pull that I don't know how much money these teams make, but a team like Kansas State, they lose a home game basically because you know what I mean. Yep. So there's something to that. So yeah, but the week was all right. I mean, my small rant, Iowa State took care of business. I had a couple props that got it on the touchdown. A little on the touchdown too, plus 200, and that got over his yards. And my only loss was Fresno. Small rant, EJ Warner, a little bit, all the same. It was in their breakdown, which I talked about. I mean, you had to take care of the football.
And they basically did nothing after that.
Yeah. And the biggest things, too, in it, I don't know, but Daniels looked good. I thought Fresno's defense was underwhelming a little bit, and the run game. Right. Those two things. And then, of course, Warner's 3 turnovers. But that was just, you couldn't run the ball, which I thought they had to do that, and they just couldn't do it, which a Kansas defense, I still don't know if it's great, but it looked pretty good. And we talked about their stadium open day. It was going to be packed. I knew that. So that was the small of week 0. But I'll take the small winning day as well. Yeah, let's get to the big one.
Let's get to this. We got a ton of games, so we're going to go right into it, and we'll begin with Thursday night. We got a slew of games taking place on Thursday night. We'll begin with the East Carolina Pirates and the NC State Wolfpack. In-state rivalry to get the card started on Thursday. We've got NC State 14-point favorites, 60.5 the total here in this game. This East Carolina team, tale of 2 seasons last year. Obviously, they made the coaching change. Mike Houston gone midway through the season. They make the coaching change after that, and it was a different team. They played fast on offense. Caton Hauser at quarterback found his footing, and it was just, totally different team, and they really rallied around Blake Harrell. Kids wanted Blake Harrell to be the permanent head coach. They played their asses off to get the interim tag removed from him, and that's exactly what happened. And now he is the permanent head coach. And that offense, man, Caton Hauser leading it at quarterback, it was very good. And I think there's a good chance that it's able to put up some points once again this year. Defense still has its question marks, make no mistake about it. It was not a great East Carolina defense, that is for sure. And I think that's the biggest concern I would have with ECU coming into the year. Meanwhile, NC State, Dave Doran's been here forever, but he does have turnover at both coordinator positions. New offensive and defensive coordinators this season for NC State. Now, he just promoted within as far as offensive coordinator with Kurt Roper, who was the quarterback coach the last couple seasons here at NC State. DJ Elliott taking over as the new defensive coordinator this season for NC State. He had worked most recently in the NFL as a linebacker coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, now taking over. But he had been a defensive coordinator at Temple many years ago, Kansas, Colorado. So he has certainly been in this role before at the college level. I think when you look at NC State, they like C.J. Bailey. I think it's a like but don't love situation when it comes to C.J. Bailey for me. I want to see a little bit more as far as consistency here is concerned. But he is going up against an ECU defense that does have some question marks. So I totally understand the push up as far as the total is concerned. This went from 57.5 where it opened to 60.5. I do agree with that move. I think it is a potential to be a high-scoring game, and I certainly had my way betting and cashing quite a few ECU games over the total down the stretch last year. So I think this is a good over. And now with this, I was leaning ECU, but the line had come below, moved down below 14. It's been pushed back up to 14. There's been some NC State money come in here over the course of the last, I would say, couple of days here, because this was down to 11.5, back all the way up to 14 right now. So if it's 14 or higher by kickoff, I think the Pirates might be worth a look. And don't forget, this is a situation where these teams are very familiar with one another, and a bowl game encounter last year between these two teams, and ECU handled themselves pretty well in that game. So ECU with the points is the only way I'd go. I'm not ready to lay 14 with NC State. CMAC with here, ECU and NC State.
Yeah, these two teams do know each other. ECU, I spent the last few times, not only with one, I've covered a couple dating back 5 years ago. Better NC State teams kind of blew them out. But I think they could put up points. The one thing, let's go to the ECU defense, that wasn't great, that gave up a bunch of points, like you were touching on, but only 2 starters. They have a couple good D linemen, a decent safety. But can NC State, one place at home is where I've always wanted to back this Wolfpack team. I just don't really want to lay 14 points. To me, a little bit, it's on this dog. Hauser, I thought looked a little bit better. He's got that big receiver in Smith. He had a bunch of targets and catches last year. I think he'll be solid. And they got a few transfers as well. So, and like you said, 18 TDs, 11 picks for Hauser. I think they'll be able to move the ball on this NC State team. And I just don't know what we get here. They don't bring back a ton here. NC State defensively, right? Where they have 6 starters coming back.
That's another thing. Yes, a lot of turnover personnel.
5 or 6
at NC State defense. I have the arrow pointing down at least to start the season with NC State's defense, no question. And don't forget, defense kind of took a hit for them last year too.
It did. Yeah, it definitely did. Especially early on, during the year. I think it got a little better. NC State's been good in this home spot though, home openers, but they've been bad. NC State's failed to cover 11 of the last 12 non-conference opponents. So I get that they're at home here, but 2 touchdowns, I'm looking that way too. I mean, I haven't bet it, but I like the dog here a little bit.
All right, Boise State and South Florida. We've got Boise State 6-point road favorites, 63 the total. There's been big movement toward the Bulls here. USF, South Florida, taking a lot of money because Boise State was 9.5 at the open way back in May. And now all of a sudden, that's a 3.5-point move toward South Florida. And look, I'm high on South Florida this year. I think they're going to be certainly a team that's going to make improvements this season. It's all coming down to the health of Byron Brown, quite honestly, because we know that when he was out at quarterback for South Florida, the offense nosedived big time. Weren't the same group on that side of the football last season. Now, the defense does have to improve. Make no mistake about it here for this South Florida team. That's always been where, and I like the hire for South Florida. He's been here now for, a few seasons, and you can see things are gradually starting to trend up for Alex Golesh here. But there's no doubt that the defense still has work in progress. Todd Orlando back to help that unit try to improve. You look at the offense, though, if Byron Brown is able to stay healthy for this football team, they should be able to move the football because they were when he was on the field and available for the Bulls last year, as far as that run game is concerned, or as far as the quarterback play is concerned. Cartavius Norton, Sam Franklin back at the running back spots. Keyshawn Singleton, one of their top wide receivers this year. O-line should be in pretty solid shape here for the Bulls this year. So and certainly you're going to see tempo. You're going to see them play fast. That's always what you get from South Florida. So it has a chance to be a really good offense. It's really going to be what are we going to see from them on the defensive side of the football. Meanwhile, you look at Boise State, and obviously Ashton Jeanty was the showpiece of the offense last year. He's gone. Replacing him it's almost impossible, you would say, to replace him just from a pure talent and ability standpoint. That's going to fall to Sire Gaines, Malik Sherrod, who are going to be tasked with running the football now for Boise State. Good luck filling the shoes of Ashton Jeanty, who's probably going to go down as the all-time best running back Boise State's had, or certainly one of. But nevertheless, Maddox Madsen is a very experienced quarterback. He's solid in the passing game. Now, last year he had a generational talent, at least as far as a program like Boise is concerned, at running back. How will he fare not having that by his side this year is going to be the interesting question here for Boise. I think when you look at them on offense, though, they still, should be pretty solid on that side of the football. The one thing, too, is, though, his decision-making could still get better. He did have some head-scratching turnovers, interceptions at times last year. We will see how he will fare with that as far as that goes. The offensive line is very strong. Defense, 7 starters back from last year on that side of the football. It was an elite defense. It was phenomenal last year against the run in particular, and it should be very good against the run once again this year. Last year, the secondary was the problem. You could throw the ball on Boise at times, and the secondary is probably their biggest concern or their biggest weak link coming into this season, if you will. This is another one where I lean over, but there is a chance of some rain, it looks like, as of now. Now, it's early. This game's not till Thursday. There is a chance of showers Thursday night in the Tampa area. We'll see how that affects things. But as I always say, wind is what I'm more focused on when it comes to totals as opposed to rain. But I lean over this total. I like Boise a lot. I've mentioned on the Mountain West preview, C-Mac. I think they win the Mountain West, and I think that maybe comfortably, because I don't know if there's anyone really that's going to challenge them or threaten them in that conference this season. But this is a tricky spot to open the year. Boise's got to go all the way down to Central Florida, Tampa area for this game. And I can't help but think about a spot early in the season that they had when they had to go all the way to Georgia Southern, to begin the college football season, Boise State. And it was their first game of the year last year as well. And they did win 56-45 by 11. Game flew over the total, but they didn't cover as 13-point favorites, and that was a battle for them from start to finish. That very first game last year when they opened on the road all the way east against Georgia Southern. And I would say South Florida is probably going to be a little bit of a taller task, tougher foe than Georgia Southern was last year. So this is one of those spots where with the travel, going all the way to the east, very dangerous opponent playing at home. I understand the love for South Florida. Would I want to bet it at 6 now when it was 9.5? I don't probably lost some value, but I understand the sentiment to the South Florida side, and I think this is a high-scoring game. C-Mac, what do you think here, Boise State, USF?
Yeah, right off the rip, this seems like over a touchdown or near 10. You'd feel a little bit more safe here, I think, with South Florida. Yeah, first game for Boise. The travel, and you mentioned at least for now, of course, we're no meteorologist, weather guys, but, basically saying it's going to rain, pretty much throughout the day, but it comes and goes. So who knows, but it'll be hot and muggy for Boise. I'm sure South Florida, they won't mind that at all. This South Florida team was just different with Brown. It was like a whole different football team when he wasn't in there. It was tough to watch the offense. Defensively, they have a few good linebackers. I still think they're going to give up points. I think there's points in this game. I just think the total's right here, 63. So I wasn't itching to grab the over, even though I still think it might get there. I think Madsen, it might take a little bit of time. I think when I was looking at this too, I thought USF was a little bit live, maybe even first half, plus 3.5. Maybe come out early, that offense. Boise takes a little bit of time to get going. And then as the game goes on, maybe Boise's defensive line kind of take over and their offensive line and really get things going.
That's kind of what happened in that Georgia Southern game, too. The longer that game went on,
a little bit,
the offensive line and the run game just wore them down third quarter, fourth quarter. Could that happen here? I could see that. So South Florida first half.
Yeah, I'm looking first half here.
Rather have in this game. I agree with that. I could see that because that Boise offensive line's no fucking joke. They're going to be really good again this year. Even though Genty's gone, this could be maybe we find out that as great as Genty is, as long as they got the beef in the trenches, Boise, and from all indications, it looks like they will have that. They can probably still run the football with a good amount.
I still think they'll be okay. Yeah, Genty's one of a kind, but I think they'll be all right. Yeah,
I kind of think that too. I'm in the camp where, look, Genty was phenomenal and just incredible talent, but let's not act like all of a sudden, the run game's going to die here for Boise this year. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think they're still going to have a decent amount of success as far as running the rock is concerned. All right, Jacksonville State and UCF. We've got UCF here, 18-point home favorites, 52.5, 53 the total here in this game. Again, all these games are on Thursday night. This is UCF or pass for me. Now, it's just a question of can you get to UCF with them laying 18 points? But there's no chance I'm back in Jacksonville State. This is one of the big overhauls of the offseason. When you talk about Jacksonville State from last year to this year, we saw Rich Rod obviously depart for West Virginia. He's gone from the equation now. You're kind of starting over, really, both sides of the football here if you're Jacksonville State coming into this season. Tough spot for Charles Kelly, the first-year head coach here for this Jacksonville State program. Huge losses on the offensive side of the football. Tyler Huff was incredible last year, gone. Trey Stewart, amazing. You talk about a good running back. Trey Stewart was that for Jacksonville State last year. Not only is the offense really starting over this year for Jacksonville State, but Clint Trickett. Here's how we're getting old. Clint Trickett, I remember he was a quarterback for like West Virginia and Florida State a long time ago. Now he's offensive coordinator here for Jacksonville State. So tells you how old we're getting, but how time's been flying. But yeah, he takes over as the offensive coordinator here for Jacksonville State. Now, from all indications, we remember the Jacksonville State offense last year was a run-based spread attack that was very up-tempo. This year, under Clint Trickett, it sounds like they're still going to play pretty fast, from all indications, but they're still going to try to keep more of a spread attack. They're going to do a lot more option game this year, a little zone read game. They're going to try to keep it somewhat similar to what Rich Rod did. It's not going to be the scheme is not going to change drastically from all indications, according to Trickett. But again, the personnel to run it, certainly is going to take a hit here for this Jacksonville State team. So I don't think there's going to be a huge drop-off as far as pace is concerned. Defensively, Jacksonville State, obviously last year, was pretty solid. They had some games where against some better competition, they struggled. They were 65th, 26.1 points per game, which isn't great. But this year, it probably is going to take a hit because, you've got a ton of their top tacklers gone. A lot of your sack production from your edge rush and the D-line is gone from this Jacksonville State defense. So it's really going to be a tall order for a team that's obviously, great season last year. Rich Rod did a great job at new coaching staff, the defense and offense, personnel overhaul on both sides of the ball. So there's going to be struggles. The question is, first game of the season, as Scott Frost returns to UCF, where he had his greatest success, do you want to lay this kind of a price with UCF? I don't like his DC hire. I'll say it right now. I think Alex Grinch is the most disappointing defensive coordinator that I have seen in college football in my years. Every year we get excited about, hey, Alex Grinch going to be the defensive coordinator. Well, guess what? His defense at Oklahoma when he was there, not really all that great. He followed Lincoln Riley to USC, and we know how the defense was absolutely abysmal for the most part when he was with Riley again at USC, just like at Oklahoma. They couldn't get stops when they needed it. And then, of course, he was the co-DC last year at Wisconsin, and I don't think that was one of the better Wisconsin defenses we've seen in recent years. I think their defense kind of went to shit last year too. So I don't love this hire. And Frost obviously did a great job here, but I think he could have done a better job hiring your to me, I've just not seen the results on the field from the defense from Alex Grinch when he's been the DC, and it doesn't matter where he's been. So I can't say I'm in love with that hire by any stretch of the imagination for the UCF program. When you look at the offense here for UCF, coming into this season, should be interesting to see what we get. You're going to get pace and tempo. There's going to be no bones about that. You're going to see this team playing fast. That's going to be their goal. And we saw that obviously with Scott Frost teams before. I'm not the biggest fan of Cam Fancher, who has landed the starting job here for UCF. He's a guy that's played obviously at Florida Atlantic and Marshall in the past, and mediocre is the best word I could use to sum him up and describe him. So we'll see if Scott Frost, who's a quarterback by trade, is able to get the most out of him here at UCF. He's going to have to get something better than I saw from him in FAU and Marshall, because I was never that impressed with Cam Fancher at those spots. Obviously, they're going to be balanced. They're going to run the football quite a bit, play fast, not ask Cam Fancher to take it all on his shoulders or his arm for that matter. But like I said, the defensive side of the football for UCF is where the questions, for me at least, lie with this football team, because this is a defense that was terrible in the final year under Gus Malzahn last year. That defense was shredded, was ripped apart. And now you're talking about hiring a DC that I'm not enamored with by any stretch of the imagination, because I don't see quality defense when I look up Alex Grinch's career resume as a defensive coordinator. Name me the one great defense he's had. Oklahoma, USC, Wisconsin. Name me the one quality defense that guy has put on the field. You can't. At least I don't think I can. So this is another one where I don't trust the UCF defense enough, I think, to lay the 18 in this spot, even though I kind of want to fade Jacksonville State. I'd probably veer more toward maybe the team total over for UCF rather than laying the 18. I lean over too, but again, this is weather. Keep an eye on it. There's a threat of rain once again here for this game. Keep an eye on that. I haven't moved on this yet. Now, they're betting this total down, and I think a large part of it is because of all the losses on offense for Jacksonville State. But I don't think their pace is going to change too much, and you do know that UCF will play quick. So if both teams are going to play quick, and the total, 52.5 with both teams playing quick, it would be my concern for anyone back in the under here in this game. What do you think here, C-Mac? Jacksonville State, UCF.
There's a few of these this week. The playing quicker is big, but just horrible defenses and maybe not the best offenses with some of these totals that I was going through on a few of the games. And this was one of them. I think, Jacksonville State will be all right. We'll see with the offense a little bit. With Wimsett, they got Cook as the running back. And on defense, they have some good transfers. We'll see a few guys from Bama that are coming in the corner. So, and they got a few D linemen that I think are all right. And in this game, one thing with UCF, their biggest problem in Big 12 play, they give 31 points per game. This defense just continued to get tore up. They always play better here at home, but this is a big number. I think Jacksonville State could maybe hang around in this game a little bit because I don't trust the defense here with UCF. And maybe it's good enough they could win by 3 touchdowns here with Fancher, but they're going to be using Jackson and I've heard that it's just the full go and run around with the quarterbacks, which I don't like. And Scott Frost, he's just, I can't back him. Him laying this many points is like, sorry, no way, dog or pass.
All right, Wyoming and Akron, very interesting here. Mountain West versus MAC. On matchup on Thursday night. Wyoming 7-point road favorites, 50 the total here in this game. It'll be interesting to see what we get from Wyoming this year. Obviously, look, they saw the retirement of a legend in Craig Bull. Craig Bull had, kept that program pretty steady, pretty solid over the years, and then Jay Sawvell takes over, who was, on that coaching staff with Craig Bull, and it just went to shit last year. Unfortunately, in his first season, taking over 3-9 overall, 2-5 in Mountain West play. So this is an important year now for Sauvel, year 2. See if he can kind of right the ship, kind of get Wyoming back on track here this season for them. That's going to be obviously what the focus will be. Caden Anderson is back at quarterback this year for the Wyoming Cowboys. He's you look at the numbers last year, 58% completions, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, the numbers weren't great. But again, this is going to be an offense that is going to want to run the football. That's where Wyoming is going to want, that's where their success, that's where it's going to be. If they have that success on offense, it's going to be because they can run the football. And I think they should be able to run the football here. If you look at Akron on defense, I don't trust them at all against the run. Last year they got ripped at times against the run. Their defensive line is very, very thin to begin this season. So matchup-wise, this should be a matchup for Wyoming to get the run game going, and they should have success doing so. Their offensive line in solid shape, and I don't know if Akron's got the horses in the trenches along that defensive line to be able to stop Wyoming as far as running the football. Meanwhile, for Akron, it's a very, very important year for Joe Moorhead now. He's been here for a few years now as Akron head coach. I thought at times last year they looked competitive, but now you got to try to put some W's on the board. I know it's not been easy for a program like Akron that's been obviously struggling, but 4-8 last year. They're going to play moderate tempo. They play with some tempo. Akron, not blazing fast, but they will play up tempo, and they do have a very experienced quarterback returning for them in Ben Finley. Ben Finley's been around for quite some time here at the college level. If you remember, he was at NC State to begin his career. He spent 1 year at Cal and last year at Akron. Now he's got to improve the completion rate, 54.8 last year for him. Did have 16 touchdowns though, but 9 interceptions. You would expect with another year of experience that those numbers to go up, those numbers to improve. But I do have concerns here in this spot, CMAC, this matchup with Akron on the defensive line. And again, when you're playing a team like Wyoming and your question marks are the defensive front and your ability to run, contain the run, that's obviously the concern you would have for Akron in this matchup. So I think this is a sneaky over. The total's 50. You're not going to get Wyoming playing fast, but they should be able to run and rip off chunks of big gains on the ground against this Akron team. And I think on the flip side, when you look at Akron, Wyoming's secondary, I think, is the weak link of their defense. And, if Ben Finley takes the steps of progression, throwing the football that I think he should as a senior quarterback now for this Akron team, then there could be some plays to be made throwing the ball downfield and testing the, suspect Wyoming secondary. So I think both teams can find their way to enough points. Again, below the key number of 51, you get a 27-24 game. It goes over the total. I could see that. Spot-wise, first game of the year, Wyoming making this long trip to Akron, Ohio. I'm not comfortable laying 7 with them on the road. This long term is not the spot, not the point spread range that I like nor trust Wyoming in. CMAC, what do you think here, Wyoming, Akron?
Yeah, this game I really don't want to bet at all. Akron, I thought, made steps down the stretch and won a few games, covered a few games, a little bit, which was huge. I think both teams, because I don't know if there's that big of a change. It's week 1 here. Is they should be able to run it. You mentioned Akron gave it up 183. So did, looking last night, Wyoming gave up 190 yards on the ground. They look better towards the end of the year, too, though, Wyoming. I remember last year, games kind of more their style. The Boise game was 17-13. Washington State game was real low scoring and tight to end the year because to start out, they kind of just were out of sorts here. So both teams, I think can run the football. Man, I don't love it. Like, I think Akron could be live here. We always talk about, I want to look at Wyoming while they're at home. So this to me is just a pass. See ya.
Nothing wrong with that with a big card like this. All right, Ohio.
I see if Finley can do something. It's like, I like how they played a little bit last year. I think this game seems like it could be a touchdown or less. That's why it's here at a 7.
Yeah, this is just when I see Wyoming laying 7 or more on the road. My immediate reaction is, nah, that's not for me. I mean, it's maybe they do, and they certainly have the run game, as I think Akron will struggle against the run here against. Maybe that's enough for Wyoming to win by 10, 14, 17.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I do worry about that, but like I said, I'm just not in the business usually of laying 7 or more with Wyoming. Ohio on the road. Ohio and Rutgers. We've got Rutgers 14.5-point home favorites, 49.5 being the total here in this game. Obviously, some concerns for Ohio, rather, because Tim Albin is obviously now head coach of Charlotte and obviously did a great job. He was the one, he was the thread that tied the current iteration of the Ohio football program to the old legend Frank Solich, because Tim Albin was there for a bit under Frank Solich, but now you got him gone and Brian Smith now taking over. But this is not a huge transition. Brian Smith has been in the program now for 3 years before this with Ohio under the tutelage of Tim Albin, offensive coordinator last year with Ohio and assistant head coach as well. So this is not the huge, coaching turnover, coaching shuffle that maybe some programs are going through this season. So it'd be interesting to see how the transition goes. I don't think it's going to be that bad, compared to like you get what you get from other teams. Obviously, they return a guy that on paper should be one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC conference this year, Parker Navarro, a very talented quarterback, someone that I think is probably in position, at least, to have his best season, as a college quarterback for sure. Now, he has been bothered by a shoulder injury, throughout fall camp, and it's what forced him out of the entire spring. Couldn't practice with that shoulder issue. But he's been back in fall camp. He's been looking good, according to all the practice reports and all the camp reports. And Scott Isfording, the offensive coordinator, certainly was very complimentary of the way Parker looked here in camp. Now, he does have to clean up the interceptions. We know he's got some athleticism. He had over 1,000 yards rushing, dual threat quarterback for Ohio, but you can't have 11 interceptions in 13 games. That's got to get cleaned up if you're Parker Navarro this year for this Ohio offense leading it. Obviously, now you're going on the road. You're facing, a Rutgers team where, the offense will be put to the test here by Greg Schiano's Rutgers team entering this season. I think when you look at it from a Ohio standpoint, you're always concerned about, how a team is going to fare in the trenches, in a matchup like this. And that's certainly probably one of the grave concerns I would have. Rutgers is always pretty solid, and you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage here as far as the trench battles here are concerned. For Rutgers, there's a lot of people, and I agree with this, and maybe it doesn't impact them here because, you're playing Ohio at home, and maybe you're going to be able to get off to a flying start here in this game. And certainly there are question marks about Ohio, and that defense in particular for Ohio does have some question marks. There's a lot to like about Rutgers as far as in the trenches. I think they're going to be solid. They got C.J. Campbell, Antoine Raymond leading them in the running back spot. They're going to run the football a lot. The defense, I think, could be real solid. But the problem for Rutgers as the season goes on is their schedule is very difficult. So this suddenly becomes a very important game for them early on as a double-digit home favorite. My only hesitation is because, Ohio does have, a little bit more change going into this brand new season than Rutgers. Why I'm concerned about laying the 14.5 is because Rutgers has not been a shoo-in at times in these double-digit home favorite roles. I've seen them not cover in certain instances in this spot. And I'm still hesitant to lay a point spread like this with the Greek Stallion. You know who I'm talking about. Athan Kaliakmanis, the Rutgers quarterback who transferred here from Minnesota, where he was previously. I'm still not the biggest believer in that guy as far as quarterback play is concerned. And if you're going to cover a number laying north of 2 touchdowns, I need to know the quarterback's going to be solid for me. And the bowl game, he was 14 for 32, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in that game. You look at the numbers last year, only completing 53.9% of his passes. Now, I will say he did a decent job with the 7 interceptions in 13 games is not terrible, and he did have 18 touchdown passes. I do think he improved a little bit, but still, he's got to see more. Kaliakmanis is not one of those quarterbacks that I automatically run to the betting window and say, let's lay more than 2 touchdowns. So this is probably going to be a stay-off game for me. C-Mac, what do you think? Ohio, Rutgers.
Yeah, Ohio with some changes here on defense. It's one thing, like, can Rutgers with Kaliakmanis throw the ball around? And it's all to their schedule, too, playing in the MAC. But they were good against the run. I mean, that's why I backed Ohio kind of all year, and they played well. And Navarro, I really, really like. The turnovers are a problem a little bit with him, and he can be sloppy with the ball. But he's athletic as all hell. And they got solid receivers, I think. Like, this game could be close. I get the move, though. Like, if you got under 2 touchdowns with Rutgers, you got to feel better. Because I think over 2 touchdowns, I cannot take this Rutgers team. They should be better. They had to deal with all those injuries. The second half of the season, the defense kind of went to shit and became an over team. And I think they went the last 7-1 to the over to end the year. I'd have to double check that, but it was a lot. I just their games consistently went over. So can that happen here? This one's tough. I like Ohio this year as it's kind of down. I think.
Well, remember, a lot of the overs were defensive injuries. That defense was ravaged.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the defense just got ravaged. So all of a sudden, the totals were too low and they were just flying over. Yep. From when the start, Rutgers always seems to play well too. He has them ready to go early in the year, and you meant a game he's got to get. If the schedule, gets tougher down the road, which it is. So a tough one. I like to think Ohio could go in here and hang around a little bit, maybe early. I just have a problem with Navarro's turnovers a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. I mean, that's why I think it's 50-50. For me, it's like a coin flip. They cover this number because at Howard, the first game of the year, they didn't cover last year, but then Akron, they did at home, 49-17. In those, maybe you take a shot on Rutgers' team total over. Yet I think this could be like, here's the thing with the 49.5. I could see this being like 28-10 for Rutgers, something like that, or 31-17, and it just falls short of that 49.5 because I could see that. I could definitely see that being the case. But like I said, as you can tell, that's likely a game I'm going to be not including on my card. I would only look at the Rutgers side, but I'm just a little concerned about laying a price like that with them, knowing they're methodical, they play slow, the quarterback is a little unsteady for me. So we move on. Nebraska and Cincinnati. Nebraska 6.5-point favorites, 53.5 the total. This game is not a Cincinnati home game. This game is at Arrowhead Stadium Thursday night in Kansas City. So we've got a neutral field scenario here for Nebraska and Cincinnati for this non-conference matchup. Big 10 versus Big 12 going at it here in this one. Obviously, this is a big year for Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback, who had that nice start last year, and then things fizzled, and the offense just stagnated, and they ended up making a quarterback change, or a coordinator change, I should say, during the season last year. Matt Rule bringing on Dana Holgorsen. Now, I think Dana Holgorsen fucking sucks as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah, that's his job. Yeah, he's not a head coach. So there's some guys that just aren't cut out for to be a head coach.
Yeah, no question about that. And I think the offense will be good this year. I do. There's a lot of things pointing in the right direction. There's a lot of positives that I'm seeing as far as Nebraska on the offensive side of the football coming into this college football season, that I think there's definitely a solid opportunity for them to take strides on that side of the ball. We even saw it last year a little bit down the stretch, that we did see improvement a little bit in that Nebraska offense after Holgorsen took over the reins as offensive coordinator. You're obviously going to get throwing the ball a bit more, playing more to that strength, up-tempo, pace goes up. And we saw that down the stretch. I targeted Nebraska overs once Dana Holgorsen last year took over as offensive coordinator. And I think, again, you're going to see Nebraska end up building on what they were able to do. And really, it's put up or shut up time for Dylan Raiola, in this offense, because, you could have said the talent around me wasn't great. The system and the scheme was not to my skill set, was not to my strength. Well, now that's out the window. To me, this should be a good fit, him and Holgerson together. So if he still struggles, then, you can only look in the mirror at that point, Dylan Raiola. So this is a big year for him. Again, he's got to cut out the interceptions and the mistakes. 11 interceptions last year is not great. You got to eliminate that number, decrease that number a little bit. Obviously, Emmett Johnson, is going to be key as well as far as running the football, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield for this Nebraska team as well. And I think when you look at what they can do in the receiving core, I think it's an upgraded unit from all indications coming into the year. So that should be good to see. Dane Key, Neziah Hunter. There's some key good weapons here in the receiving core. And the offensive line, they really actually did a nice job in the portal. They got some big-time Power 4 talent coming in to really infuse this offensive line for Nebraska. So that should improve. That group should be a lot better this year. I mean, there's also been times, too, Raiola was on his can too much and from substandard offensive line play. But from what I see, that offensive line should be improved here this year, no question. Just the overall offense should be a lot better. They're going to take, I think, a sizable jump from the 98th in points per game last year that they were. On the defensive side of the football, John Butler is now the DC, a DC change because Tony White went to Florida State. It'll be interesting to see because this D-line, man, only 4 starters back on defense overall, but the D-line is starting over from scratch. And that is going to be a unit that looks very shaky, very vulnerable to begin the season here for this Nebraska team. And like I said, the secondary is where most of their experience is coming into the season. But like I said, there's a lot of concerns in the front 7. Linebacking core and D-line looks very, very weak and lots of changes there. So that's the concern. I think the defense will overall take a step back for Nebraska. And then on the Cincinnati side, it's kind of weird from a side perspective because, Nebraska's not a team that I always think people overvalue Nebraska. Everyone always expects this is the year. This is the year they're going to be better. This is the year they're going to take a huge jump forward. And every year they kind of underachieve and disappoint. And I'm hearing that same stuff again for people about Nebraska. And I'd like to fade them as a 6.5-point favorite away from home. But I'm not that high on Cincinnati. And my thoughts on Scott Satterfield. I don't think he's done a particularly great job here with this program. This is a Cincinnati program as well. Defensively last year, they really fell apart. Terrible on that side of the football in a lot of their bigger games last year. So you look at the Bearcats, though, the defense does have a lot of returning production back. But, again, that secondary was ripped apart last year big time. And I'm going to have to be convinced it's a lot better. The offense actually could be solid for them. Brendan Sorsby, is, a solid quarter. I don't want to say great quarterback, but solid quarterback. And now he's going to, senior now, should be a ton of experience. Remember, he played at Indiana as well early in his career. I think Cincinnati on offense could be all right. Defense, though, I've got to see the improvement. And they're going to be put to the test here because I think Nebraska on offense should be a lot better this year. So I've pivoted right away to the total. I think it's a bit light. Nebraska's going to play faster. I think their defense takes a step back while their offense improves. And for Cincinnati, defense wasn't great last year. Maybe some modest improvement on defense, but will it be enough to shut down Nebraska completely? I don't think so. And I think Sorsby and the Bearcats offense can do enough as far as moving the ball against a rebuilding Nebraska front 7. So I like over here, 53.5 for this one on Thursday night. C-Mac, what do you think? Nebraska, Cincinnati.
Yeah, it is a little bit. I thought Nebraska's defense, though, last year played well, better as the year a little bit went on. They're 18th overall, so we'll see that early. This is one that I want to watch a little bit. And Raiola, the offense will be, they were just so slow before the change. They just were slow, and it showed. It really killed the clock. So if they could, we'll see if they could keep going quicker. Nebraska seems to play like these opening games a lot better. On this total, this is one because I like the other way, but I just think it's a little bit too low. I was on for 54.5, 55. I want to be on this under in this game. Cincinnati, you're right. At times the defense got beat up and against the pass, they weren't great, but still they were 85th. I think they have enough pieces here. And both offensive lines, I want to touch on Nebraska, pretty good. And Cincinnati, very good too here. That O-line solid. QB, I think they kind of have enough weapons. They just, watching them was tough to convert. Just down, it would come and go. And at times you'd be like, this offense is all right, they're good, and then they look horrible, especially on third down. So, yeah, first game of the year, I was looking at this under in this game. I just wanted a little bit higher, the total. Take it.
All right, there we go. All right, next up, Buffalo and Minnesota. We got the Golden Gophers, 18-point home favorites, 44.5 the total here in this game. Obviously, when you look at this Minnesota Golden Gophers team coming into this season, there are question marks. There's a decent amount of them. The offensive line, 3 starters are gone from last year, including their best O-lineman. They're kind of rebuilding, starting from scratch here. The receiving core, they've lost a shit ton of their production from last season as far as that goes. So receiving core, offensive line question marks for this Minnesota team. We'll see how PJ Fleck's able to maneuver that throughout the course of the season, something to monitor. Obviously, they do still bring it back Darius Taylor, who's obviously a very solid running back. They do lose Max Brosmer, who was their quarterback last year. I'm seeing him obviously in the preseason this year in the NFL. Drake Lindsay will take over at the quarterback spot here for Minnesota this year. And again, taking over that spot. Last year, he got only 5 pass attempts, so he did not really get into much game action. So there's not really much we can take away from Drake Lindsay in the past, even though he's been with the program before. So we'll see. On the defensive side of the football here for Minnesota this year, that's always where the defense has been kind of what's carried them through. They have a phenomenal player in their secondary, and Coy Parrish. That guy was a ball hawk last year for them. I remember him, all the great plays that he made. He's back, but 2 top corners are back. One of their leading tacklers, Cody Lindenberg, gone as well. Linebackers are solid, but again, D-line, there's some question marks. And other than Parrish, there's some new faces in that secondary. Parrish is great, but there's a lot of new faces in that secondary for Minnesota outside of that. So something to keep in mind. So definitely their share of question marks, both sides really of the football. Buffalo is one of those MAC teams where the MAC obviously is always a bit of a, size and speed and all that, disadvantage when they play teams like, from the Big Ten, but maybe not so much here because we know Minnesota is not always highest in that grade as far as speed and size from Big Ten compared to, say, Ohio State and all the top, Penn State, all the top programs. Pete Lembo did a nice job last year, winning record overall straight up in ATS, big turnaround because Buffalo was kind of going downhill when he inherited this program, and certainly a better year last year for Buffalo. Taquan Roberson's going to be the quarterback for them. He's a guy that's got a decent amount of experience. He's been with a couple of different programs. I remember him at Connecticut, UConn a few years ago, Kansas State most recently, but had opportunities there. In fact, had a decent season there in 2023 with them. Certainly got a ton of experience that I think will help this Buffalo offense entering the year. We'll see with the run game when I look at it. And the thing with Roberson, too, is he can move. That is definitely what I like about Taquan Roberson. Al-Jay Henderson is back. He had an outstanding season running the football. Victor Snow as well, returning to this Buffalo team. The O-line's solid. Very, very strong, in fact. So they should be able to have success offensively. The defense was terrible when Lembo took over, but they did improve a little bit last year. They're expected to take, more strides forward. They weren't a great defense last year, but they weren't the bottom feeder on defense they were 2 years ago. And again, with this Minnesota team, I've seen it over the years, C-Mac, not always the most reliable commodity in this point spread range, being asked to lay, almost 3 touchdowns, in a non-conference game. I still remember cashing an ugly ticket with Eastern Michigan, a MAC team at Minnesota, and in Eastern Michigan was able to get the point spread cover. So I gravitate toward Buffalo here. I think they are a team that's going to be in contention in the MAC. Minnesota's got enough worries that I'm in this point spread range. I've got my doubts about whether they can get over that mountain of 18 points and cover this number against a Buffalo team that I think is going to be very, very solid and very, very feisty in this game as a big underdog. So I like Buffalo. I'm going to take the points here with them. CMAC, Buffalo, Minnesota.
Yeah, it's the next two game for us. Like, I think today, Buffalo, Minnesota will get to Miami, Ohio, Wisconsin next. These teams that are laying kind of this number that you just don't trust. And I don't. Here with Buffalo, the defense just has to be a little bit better. And the offense, a little bit of the change with Roberson. We've seen him enough. UConn, I've watched him enough play. So how can he get? But they have Henderson, good running back. And how much can they do against this Minnesota defense that I think will be solid? You mentioned that defense. The corners are a little suspect, but yeah, they got a few good D linemen, few good linebackers, and a couple of the safeties that are solid. So the outside, can Buffalo take advantage of that? And when you always see it, Minnesota game like this low total with such a big spread, it's like, maybe their team total under. They scored so many points last year. It's just going to be a bit different opening game. So, yeah, I was gravitating them with the points. Maybe their team total. I think the game is a little bit lower scoring in this one. And Minnesota, new quarterback, Lindsey here. What do we get? Could take some time. And we know they're just not a running.
New starters on the O-line, too, for Minnesota.
Yeah. Yep. Some new starters on the O-line there. So they got a couple all right receivers. Yeah, this was a game that I was kind of looking at that dog could be live and hang around. I kind of wanted to go into Buffalo's defense, but I just don't know if Minnesota's going to be lighting it up from jump here, here at home right away. We've seen these games, we'll get to the next one. It's like they're kind of slow. These MAC teams, some, they have get blown out. It's more I see in like the SEC, they kind of, but these big like Minnesota, Wisconsin, they kind of, can hang around a little bit.
Yeah, this is going to be pace wars. Minnesota plays very slow. Buffalo's above average in pace. So it's going to be interesting. A bit of a clash there as far as the pace goes. Minnesota will slow it down, though. That's always the way they play.
Right.
Be interesting to see how that goes. All right, speaking of slowing it down, great segue. The Wisconsin Badgers going back to the future, if you will. Jeff Grimes, the new offensive coordinator, and finally Luke Fickell admits his wrongdoing, trying to turn this team into a more pass-heavy, up-tempo offense over the years, and it turned into a disaster. He's going back to the old school ways of doing it here at Wisconsin and Madison, and that's ground and pound, run the football, and we'll see if going back to their roots pays dividends here for Wisconsin in 2025. Wisconsin 17-point home favorites here, 39.5 the total. Again, now this is definitely an underlean for me. If you're just, again, this is one of these situations where if you're betting the total simply on pace, this is an under pace waiting to happen. Neither team is going to push pace here in this particular football game. With Jeff Grimes, it's going to be a much slower pace team, run the football a lot more, take the air out of the football, longer time-consuming drives. Time of possession is going to be a big deal. That is something to keep an eye on. So they are definitely going to be a much slower team. We know for years under Chuck Martin here, the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, always a pretty steady, reliable, consistent team in the MAC. They're going to play slow. They always have, and they obviously want to run the football quite a bit too. Daquan Finn is back in the MAC. This is a guy that was initially with Toledo, went to Baylor for a bit, and now here he is back in the MAC conference and starting at quarterback here for the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. Be very interesting to see how that goes. Wisconsin is going to turn to the Maryland transfer, Billy Edwards, as their quarterback this year. But again, Billy Edwards is going to be in a situation where he's not going to be asked to do it all. It's going to be a run-heavy offense, run-first offense. So they're just going to make sure that Billy Edwards, hey, just take care of the football here. Don't lose us the game. Rely on the run game, to help us out here this season. That's going to be the modus operandi, if you will, for Wisconsin. They are certainly going to go back to, what made them great. And now, again, you could argue if the personnel for this year's team for Luke Fickell is great, but I think schematically and as far as offensive system is concerned, it's going to be a much better fit all around. That they are going to go back to, run game and play action passing. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. They have they have 3 starters back on the O-line, Wisconsin. They've got Dylan Jones, Darian Dupree. They got a very deep running back room. That's the positive as well. And so Dylan Jones, Darian Dupree, it's going to be a solid running back group here for Wisconsin. No question about that. Now the question is going to be on the Miami, Ohio side of the equation is, can that run game work in this game against Miami, Ohio? Because for MAC standards, we've known this Miami, Ohio Redhawks team to be pretty decent in the past, against the run. But obviously you're talking about, Big Ten team here, certainly some questions about whether they can match up with the physicality, with the size maybe of that Wisconsin offensive front going into this game. But Chuck Martin, one thing we know about him is they're usually a very good defensive team. There's no question about that. And it'll be interesting to see if they can keep it going. Now, they are going to miss the leading tackler, Matt Salopek here for them. He was absolutely outstanding. There's no doubt about that. But again, usually they're good in the trenches. This definitely is an under for me. It feels like it. Slow pace, both sides. Unfortunately, it's very well reflected in the total. We're talking a sub 40 total in this game, 39.5, but I think it's 39.5 for a reason. This is just a very tough side. I'm not ready to lay 17 with Wisconsin, but I've been punished in the past, CMAC, for taking Miami O in these non-conference games as big underdogs.
Yeah, early.
Yeah,
I was going to bring that up.
They I don't want to say they don't try, but this is not a focus of Chuck Martin. It's almost like he uses these games as an extended preseason and training camp to get ready for the MAC conference schedule. I've noticed that because I've been really hurt in the past thinking, oh, Miami's pretty good MAC team. And then they go to the non-conference on the road and they get ambushed. They get crushed. So I'm not making that mistake this time. So it's one of these deals where I don't want to lay 17 with Wisconsin, but I'm not really all that excited about taking Miami, Ohio here either. CMAC, what do you think here? Miami, Wisconsin.
I was thinking that going through it over the years because there's just so much. The transfer portal kind of got him. This O line, is a whole new there. You have Finn at QB. He is what he is.
You can move that passing, man. That passing accuracy and decision making still is at times. Yeah.
And playing teams like this, Wisconsin even be great. And Miami, I still think the defense at spots is pretty good. Miami, Ohio, their secondary. Can Wisconsin really, light them up? I'm not so sure. So this was tough. I mean, Wisconsin at home probably was, but I think this could be right around the number. Which I've seen before, or they've got to get their ass kicked. So, but I think as the year goes on, I'm going to be looking to back this Miami, Ohio team during MAC play. I think they get better and better. They sort out the offensive line. A few of the stuff they got to figure out defensively, but I think down the line I want to back them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, like I said, to see how this plays out. I do worry about that offensive line for Miami, Ohio in this game. I do. And being able to move the football with a shaky O-line to start the year on the road against Wisconsin, that could be something you want to be a little bit worried about. All right, let's go to Friday now. Central Michigan and San Jose State. We've got San Jose State 11.5-point home favorites, 50.5 the total here in this game. Obviously, San Jose State coach Ken Niumatalolo last year in his first season, very surprisingly good year, 7-6 winning record, got to bowl game, and like I said, there's definitely things to like about this Spartans team on paper, at least going into this season here as well. And I think the big part is Walker Eget is back at the quarterback spot for San Jose State this year. You look at offensively, and even last year, there was a lot to like. I thought their offense, certainly the whole team performed better than I expected. But there's no question that the offense was very solid, very sturdy. They're kind of the team that I think CMAC, and I said this maybe even more so than UNLV, and of course we saw UNLV struggle just to win outright, straight up against Idaho State on Saturday.
Yeah, we talked about it.
But I always thought if someone could step up in this conference and make life somewhat difficult on Boise, San Jose State could be that team this year. I'm not saying they will be, but they could be. They got 3 starters back on the O-line. They got an experienced quarterback and Walter Egat for them, who's going to return this season. The good thing is last year he didn't really, he had 10 interceptions, but that turnover-worthy play stat was very good for him. So that's something you want to be definitely liking to see. Floyd Chalk back at the running back group. It'll be interesting to see. Nick Nash was just, be-all, end-all at receiver. How do you replace him if you're San Jose State this year? Just a phenomenal receiver, and it'll be interesting to see how they go about replace him. They got 6 starters back on defense. It's a defense that struggled a bit last year, but most of their top tacklers are back. D-line and linebacking core should be good, in my opinion. The secondary is the bigger concern, and you're facing a Central Michigan team here. Can they exploit that? That's going to end up being the big question. And I don't know if Joe Labas is going to be the kind of quarterback that I trust to do that for Central Michigan. He's been around quite some time, and again, he's been hit or miss. Now, Matt Drinkle is the new head coach here for this Central Michigan team. Comes over from Army, and obviously was the O-line coach last year for Army, and he was a co-OC 2 years ago for Army. So you know what his mindset's going to be. Ground and pound, slow pace, comes from that Army, style of offense. It's going to be slow it down. It's going to be run the football quite a bit. And like I said, very interesting to see how it plays out here for Central Michigan this year. But there's no doubt going to be a little bit of a scheme change, philosophy change here on offense. And quite honestly, I like that they're doing a run-heavy offense because I'm not sure Joe Labas is the most trustworthy passer that I've seen from recent years. So this definitely feels like now San Jose State is a team that could score points here. The one thing that would concern me a bit about Central is just the state of that defense. Will they be able to contain San Jose State? And they've obviously over the years had issues on the defensive side of the football. That's definitely where I'd have my gravest fear for Central in this game with Matt Drinkle taking over. But like I said, when you look at the situation, it's a pretty experience-wise, it's pretty solid up front, defensive line and linebacking core here for Central Michigan. I think the bigger concern for them is going to be they didn't force a lot of turnovers, and there is some rebuilding and retooling going on in the secondary. So can San Jose State throw the ball? Yes, but up front, they're not in the worst shape, Central Michigan. So again, I kind of lean under in this game with Central and San Jose State. I think it's a tough spot travel-wise. I mean, I lean to laying the points with San Jose State. I mean, even if the defense hangs in there for a while, I'm not sure I love what I'm seeing CMU on offense. They're going to have to be able to run the football. Will they be able to do that against San Jose State's the question. Playing all the way on the West Coast in the Bay Area. I mean, I definitely lean San Jose State. Don't know if I'll bet it, but I lean in that direction. And also the under as well. CMAC, what do you think here? Central Michigan, San Jose State.
Yeah, I don't know. I get back Central here. If they're going to be really good. You meant off the top. Yeah, they were on the worst turnover margin. Central Michigan. I mean, I think one of the only few are pretty bad, negative at the bottom last year. I don't think their defense is very good. Nash is gone. They still have the running back, Floyd Chalk, fourth, I think is his name. Great name. I think he'll be good. He gets back. This might not be like running up crazy, but I was looking at San Jose State here too. Maybe first half for them to cover. Teams like them, when their defense, isn't the best, always have trouble laying points with them. They are at home. And also another look for me, maybe their team total could get there just because it's Central that improved defensively. Because consistently I saw them give up a ton last year, just some bad teams or, average teams, right? Eastern Michigan, they gave up 38, 27-46 Miami, Ohio. So I think San Jose State, I was looking at team total or maybe them early in this game.
All right, next up, Appalachian State Mountaineers, Charlotte 49ers. We got App State 6.5-point road favorites, 50 the total here in this game. And there's been a good amount of money, not a little bit at least, on Charlotte because this opened 8.5 down. There are still some sevens out there. So if you like Charlotte, shop around, get the 7. And if you like App State, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get 6.5. So you should be able to get, good numbers with anyone you want here in this game. Appalachian State, for years, especially in the Sun Belt, great program, one of the stalwarts. But there's no doubt this is a program kind of going the other way, in the wrong direction, in my opinion. They bring in Dowell Loggins as the new head coach, and I know
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins. I know people that have now. It's not fair to just right away, say this is not going to work. But I know there's a lot of people that hate this hire for App State, hate it, and just don't think it's going to work all that well. And don't forget, they fired a guy that I don't think was a great coach here, Sean Clark. I mean, I had my issues with Sean Clark when he was here all those years for sure. But Dowell Loggins comes over from a spot being South Carolina's offensive coordinator for the last couple of years at South Carolina. We'll see it. And the South Carolina offense was, okay, under his tutelage there. Like I said, how it plays out here for App State will be very interesting. A.J. Swan is the quarterback. That guy's been around for a very long time, going back to his Vanderbilt days. He's never completed more than 58% of his passes in a single season. That's something that would, worry me a little bit here about App State. The defense, which they've known to have good defenses. Well, not last year. Holy mackerel. What a brutal Mountaineer defense it was last year for them. Obviously, with a new head coach, you've got new schemes, new coordinators, both sides of the ball as well. DJ Smith comes in as the new defensive coordinator here for this Appalachian State team as well. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. He was the Missouri co-DC the last few years under Drinkwitz. So we'll see how it goes. But again, he's got a lot of friggin' work to do. That's all I can say about this App State defense, which again just took a huge decline in that defense last year. Charlotte, look, it's a big job ahead, but they got the hire. I think I like the hire of Charlotte at head coach a lot more than I like the App State hire with Tim Albin, who again led Ohio in the MAC, did a great job there, very solid job with the Bobcats. Now he takes over this Charlotte program. He has tabbed, it looks like, the North Carolina transfer. It looks like it's a chance anyway. It could be him, but all signs have been pointing to him being the starter. Connor Harrell being the quarterback here for Charlotte for this team after a couple of years at UNC. Again, minimal action, but remember, he was pressed into action last year and even the year before due to some injuries. So he has played and started games at the college level before. So that's certainly, a plus, I could say, for Charlotte going into the year. This is a defense where, overall you got concerns, but I look at Charlotte as a team where they made a really good hire. Biff Poggi, it didn't work well with him. And their offense, I think, has the chance to be pretty solid. And when I look at that offense, too, 5 the starters are back for that group this year. The defense, I think, has work to do to continue to improve, continue to get better. I think there's a chance they're able to do that this season. I took Charlotte. I did. I got him at a 7 and shop around. There are still 7s out there. But I think this is a bit of a disarray state of the program situation for App State. And I don't like a lot of what I'm reading, seeing, what I saw last year. Don't love this hire in particular. I'm okay fading them as a 7-point road favorite right out of the chute. Now, I know Charlotte's got its issues, and they've still got ways to go, but I like the Albin hire. Winning program, winning culture there at Ohio. He's going to bring that here to Charlotte. I think at least in the first week, there'll be some enthusiasm playing at home. I'll take the touchdown with Charlotte here as a home dog. C-Mac, what do you think?
This was another game, too, I'll touch on, is bad defenses. What do we get from the offenses? I thought the total was a little bit light here. I'm not like crazy about the over, but I think it could get there. Charlotte was an over team. Talking
they're
about
going to
that
play
defense.
a lot slower this year, but doesn't mean they can't move the football and still be
Both teams were
efficiency.
Bad defensively, though, when you look at these numbers, too. App State, another one, turnover mark. They're at the bottom. They were 124th last year. Negative in turnover margin. They just couldn't really get anything going. They played to the under a little bit towards, I don't know, the last couple of months of the year, but they had crazy totals. 64, 59, 62, 58 and a half. Some of those just slipped under 32-20 games, 38-24, 20-20. So I think this could maybe get over, but I think Charlotte is live in this game. This team, I think, can move the chains here. They struggled last year a bunch. It was third down. They're just it's some sloppy play. Quarterbacks were great. Bad percentage there. But I think this game is close. So, not that I love the Charlotte team, but at home, touchdown, I think they definitely cover this game and lean over.
Lean over, and Connor liking Charlotte, as do I, in that game. I think App State's pretty high on my bet against list this year, and we'll see if it comes to fruition right away here in the first game. All right, next up, Kennesaw State and Wake Forest. Wake Forest, 17.5-point home favorites, 51.5 the total. Jake Dickert, former Washington State head coach, is now the Wake Forest head coach this season. Did a solid job, actually, all things considered, at Washington State when he was there. We'll see what he can do here. Kennesaw State this season also, when you look at what they've got this year, there's definitely some change in their program as well. Chandler Burks, and they are going to make some changes as far as offense is concerned. They've been a triple option style offense for a very long time here, but it looks like this year, Jerry Mack, the new head coach, and Mitch Militello, the new offensive coordinator, and they are going to play fast, much faster, spread offense. The passing game is going to be emphasized. They're going to look to throw the football a lot more, Kennesaw, this season on offense. So my first thought here was, and they're betting this under 53.5 to 51.5, but we're getting significant pace change from Kennesaw this year. I guess the question is going to be, pace is great. Can they have success moving the ball against, obviously, you're talking an ACC Power 4 team here playing Wake Forest. Although we know Wake Forest, at least when Dave Clawson's been there the last couple of years before the coaching change, not exactly a defensive juggernaut, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. So, like I said, I think there could be opportunity here for Kennesaw and their pace, maybe especially early, to take Wake Forest a little bit by surprise. Dexter Williams is going to be the quarterback from all indications. Yes, they've confirmed him as the quarterback. This is a guy that played at Georgia Southern most recently last year. Only got into 4 games, but 19 of 30, 63% with his completion rate. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. All things considered, decent numbers for Dexter Williams last year, the new incumbent quarterback here for Kennesaw State. Meanwhile, Robbie Ashford has been tabbed as the quarterback here for Wake Forest starting the year. We saw him most recently at South Carolina last season, backing up Lenora Sellers down there. Solid numbers in relief, 8 games, 72% completions for Robbie Ashford there. And, of course, he was at Auburn before that for a couple of years, where he had 9 interceptions, 9 touchdowns in 2 years there, and really bad completion rate. But no doubt he took some strides last year at South Carolina. We'll see how he fares. And when you talk about the Kennesaw State Owls, certainly defense will be, probably a work in progress. We'll see how it goes. And always the concern, CMAC, too, with these teams that go from playing slow to playing fast. Your defense is going to be on the field more. And that's sometimes a detriment to the defense as well, and hurts them more than it helps them. So 51.5, I certainly lean over the total. Again, I have not moved yet on this, but I am definitely leaning in that direction. Nothing really on the side. I like the Dickert hire. Dickert is someone that did solid work at Washington State. I could see them maybe covering this number. Kennesaw on the road and stopping Wake Forest, especially if Ashford shows that he can turn last year's modest improvement into continued production and improvement this year at quarterback. I could see Kennesaw's defense struggling a bit. So the over is what stands out to me here more than anything. CMAC, Kennesaw, and Wake.
This was kind of one I had a tough time. I wanted nothing really to do with this game at all. There's just so many question marks with Wake. I think they win it here. Can they? I'm not going to just game like this lay 17.5. There's just too many question marks. So many guys, especially on offense, that just in and out. Portal's crazy here with this Demon Deacons team. And the biggest, the O-line. It's like all gone, all new guys in. So I got to see it a little bit more. And both defenses, just weren't very good at all. And can Kennesaw do enough here on offense? Because watching some of their games could be, man, tough. I forget they scored 5 against UT Martin, right? Maybe? Yep. I forget. Was it? Okay. There was a couple games that were 0 against La Tech. I mean, there was just a few. Middle Tennessee was the 5. They had a 13. They lost 24-13 versus UT Martin. So I got to see some changes a little bit in this offense. So, for me, it was just for now.
All right, Auburn and Baylor. This is a good one. I'm looking forward to this on Friday night. We've got Auburn 2.5-point road favorites, 57.5 the total here in this game. I haven't been enamored with the trajectory of this Auburn program of the last couple of years. There's no question. We just haven't seen them really play great under Hugh Freeze. Now, they're going to turn to Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma transfer at quarterback. It's one of these deals where I kind of want to see the improvement before I believe it. That offense was definitely for a guy that's an offensive-minded head coach, Hugh Freeze, to see that Auburn offense do what it did last year. It was very disappointing. Again, but Jackson Arnold, not the biggest fan. I got to admit it. I think at Oklahoma he was okay, but he wasn't always that spectacular. What are you going to get from him here now? Maybe a change of scenery does him some good. No question. But like I said, there's still some question marks I have about how good this offense can be. Damari Alston and Darrell Robinson, the running back group, they do have a good one in Cam Coleman at receiver. He is a very good receiver for this Auburn team. The offensive line should be better this year as well. So, like I said, even though they lose Hunter to the NFL, their top rusher last year, O-line is better. When you look at it, though, defense for Auburn, there's some concerns. 6 starters back, but only 1 starter in the entire defensive line and linebacking core combined is back for Auburn. So that is definitely some concerns there. Up front, they could be a little bit vulnerable. And keep in mind, Baylor is going to throw a very, very potentially really good offense at Auburn here. Sawyer Robertson, I thought played really well at quarterback for them last year. They can run, they can throw. And there's certainly, I think, potential for Baylor to have a decent amount of success. Again, and Auburn in the front 7 is thin. Auburn in the front 7, there's question marks, in my opinion, coming into this year. So, and then you factor in, I'm not sold on Jackson Arnold. I like Baylor here as a slight at home. In fact, I thought Baylor, it looked like it was maybe going to close Baylor as a slight home favorite. Now there's been a little buyback to Auburn. I'm going to see if I can even get a 3 potentially with Baylor before kickoff. I'll really like it even more at that point, but I think they win this game. I'm okay still taking it even at 2.5. I like Baylor here. Home dog. I like the way they finished the season last year. Let's keep that in mind. I thought they finished the season strong. Now the defense, it's been disappointing and underwhelming under Dave Aranda, and that's shocking because of, coming from LSU where he did a nice job with that defense there. But like I said, I think there's reasons to believe Baylor's defense will get better this year. So, yeah, I like Baylor here. It's a slight home underdog. CMAC, Auburn, Baylor. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if there are 3s here. Yeah, I took Baylor. Yeah, I gave this out yesterday. I just like this offense, and I think they're getting not a ton of respect because they've just been shitty, the last few years. Auburn comes to town. And Auburn, traditionally, them on the road, I do not want to back them. You talked about Freeze. All I've heard from him is Jackson Arnold, he's not very confident, blah, blah, blah. didn't love him anyways. He's got some talent. And I hear we're going to play maybe 3 quarterbacks. Ding, ding, ding. I talk about that all the time here.
Sometimes when you have 3, you have none. Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what you want and what you're going to do. Now, they probably could score a little. They got Singleton in from Georgia Tech, the wideout. That should help out. Transfer there. So that should be good. And Baylor's defense, they bring back 8 or 9 stars. This Baylor team brings back a ton. Right around top 15, top 10, whatever they bring back. But they were bad. But I thought they played better at times down the stretch. I mean, it was more of that offense with Robertson lighting it up. But so I think they could work on that a little bit in this game. But yeah, I think they're live. I think there's a little bit too much love here for Auburn. I think this game is probably close. That's why we're talking about. Will there be a 3? Could come in clutch. But even the 2.5 could be. I think this game will be tight in the end. And I think there's points. I just don't know we get over. Baylor an over team, as you probably know. They were overs were money down the stretch. I think they went 8-1-1 the last 10. So I think you get there. I just threw a little bit higher at 57.
Chance of rain here, as is the
there's rain.
It looks like there could be some rain in the state of Texas on Friday night because there's a couple games in the state of Texas on Friday night. Auburn, Baylor is one of them. This is another. UNLV, Sam Houston State, both teams that were in action in week 0. Now going head-to-head here in week 1. UNLV, 10.5-point road favorites, 60.5 the total. Man, Sam Houston State, man. I know it's only one game, but it's pretty rough for them, especially on defense. Once Maverick McIver and I had the over in that Sam Houston Western Kentucky game last week, once that offense got going, they weren't stopping it. And that defense is totally starting over from scratch this year, Sam Houston State. You would think UNLV can score points because when they got their offense going against Idaho State, and it took a while last week, but eventually they did. Dan Mullen was non-committal to who its starting quarterback would be. We saw both of them play extended stretches in that game. Alex Orji, the Michigan transfer, and of course Anthony Calandria. I think Calandria played better, and I think Calandria is going to end up being the starting quarterback.
I think so too. You see Orji fumble the ball into the fucking end zone?
Yeah, just
God damn.
Unless he's running, he's a mistake waiting to happen. Unless he's got the ball in his hands firmly and he's running with it, he's a mistake waiting to happen. He'll fumble it. He can't throw worth a shit, half the time with accuracy. So there's all kinds of issues with Alex Orji. I think he is going to end up sticking with Anthony Calandria, the Virginia transfer, as his quarterback. At least watching that game last Saturday, and I saw a good chunk of it, he looked like the better quarterback. So first thought here is over because UNLV's defense looked rough. When you're struggling at home and you're giving up big yardage and big plays all over the place, how many explosives as far as explosive plays on offense did Idaho State have? It was shocking.
Crazy.
UNLV just give up all those big plays. So, and I had Sam Houston circled as an over team coming into the year because they're playing faster. They're throwing the ball more with Hunter Watson at quarterback for Phil Longo, playing much faster than they did under Casey Keeler. So I agree with this total going up. Totally agree with it. 58.5 to 61. My one concern is the weather. We do have a chance of rain for this game Friday night. Again, though, I caution everybody with totals. Rain is not enough to get me off and over. It has to be wind. It has to be very, very heavy rain, and more so it's
got to be like pouring.
Yeah. If it's like a few drops of rain and just a light shower, that's not always going to impede the offenses enough to take you off and over. At least not for me. So definitely over or pass for me. Sidewise, it's tough. I don't know if I want to lay 10. I probably can't lay 10.5 with UNLV on the road until I see more, but I don't want to back Sam Houston either. So it's a clear pass for me from a side perspective. These are two teams I'd rather bet against than bet on. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. But in this line, it's come down. It's Sam Houston here, though, sidewise or nothing. All right. I talked about a little bit we did in the car how UNLV was going to be down. I thought their schedule, we mentioned too, was pretty good for them, where they could probably win 8 games, but at least 7 games. The defense right now, man, they have issues. And they got, 3 or 4 picks off the QB for Idaho State in that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
They missed 2 field goals.
Not
the
like
fumble.
all their points were
Where's he?
methodically driving the football right down the field. Yes.
Yeah, they were down 10-0 quick. So, but they should be able to move the ball. I mean, I agree. I think this, even with the rain, this kind of stood out that it should get there in the end. I mean, there's got to be huge changes to this CFB in practice and this defense. And Western Kentucky, I thought, kind of did what they should. And it was pretty easy game. Sam Houston, the defense just looked gutted. There was a time there. It was like 3 straight possessions, but they were up 10-7. Hunter Watson had that 55-yard touchdown run, and they came right back, and they had a couple field goals before half. And then Sam Houston came right back, had that fumble recovery, and they just couldn't do anything else after that. And Western Kentucky gets it. So, but I think Sam Houston's live here a little bit. As bad as they are, they still have Watson. UNLV, the best thing they have, but how do you take of it going against Idaho State? Their running game. You know, Thomas looked really good. He had 2 or 3 huge runs. So, and more of that. And with the rain, that just means more slop. There's probably fumbles, the whole turnovers here, you know. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, next up, we've got this is another one of the marquee games coming up Friday night. That's what's great about week 1. We've got so many of these, you know, better, higher profile games on a Thursday and Friday night, and this is one of them. Georgia Tech and Colorado. We've got Georgia Tech 4-point road favorites in Boulder, 52.5 the total in this game. I thought at 3 or better, I lean Georgia Tech. Do I want to lay 4 now on the road first game? I'd still lean that way. I like this Georgia. You know, I like this Georgia Tech team because on the ACC preview, I liked over the win total, longer shot to win the ACC. You know, I thought they were worth it. If not Clemson, I thought Georgia Tech would have a chance. I love Haynes King. That guy is just, he's a winner as a player as far as his mentality. He's got a winning mentality, you know. He'll take punishment. He's a great leader. You know, he'll
you want to have that.
Yeah.
You saw Rocco Beck, that guy. I mean, he's got a tad of that, and he's been very good in second half, fourth quarter. Yeah.
You need some of that, especially as a quarterback. You're right. Rocco Beck showed a lot of that for Iowa State on Saturday and beating Kansas State, and Haynes King's got that. Haynes King and Georgia Tech should have beat Georgia in that game. I still say that. I've said that over.
That was crazy. I know.
They absolutely should have won that game, Georgia Tech. But Jamal Haynes, they got Haynes and Haynes, the law firm back, quarterback and running back. That's great to see. The offensive line for Georgia Tech should still be pretty solid. You know, the defense last year, I thought it got better, you know, as the season went on. And he's a guy that's going to be a head coach, too, in the future. This Georgia Tech offensive coordinator who's done a great job, Buster Faulkner. Great name, too. Buster Faulkner is probably going to be a very, very good, highly sought-after head coach in the very near future here in the college ranks. Now, for Colorado, you know, all generational college-level talent, Travis Hunter gone. You obviously have a brand-new starting quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. Now, I know they bring in a guy that had great success at Liberty in the group of 5, Caden Salter. He's going to be the quarterback for Dion this year. But you're going from group of 5 and horseshit teams and defenses every week, you know, to having to play, you know, in this game, you know, Georgia Tech, you know, I think could be pretty solid on defense. And let's not forget, what did Liberty's offense do against Oregon, you know, in the game, the big bowl game? You know, they struggled a bit more in that game. We'll see. But like I said, with this Liberty offense with Salter, it was very good. I thought last year, though, you know, it wasn't as good for him there at Liberty. So, like I said, how is it going to work? And you look at the changes that Colorado's going to have. They want to run the football more. They finally think they've addressed the shortcomings of the offensive line, which was terrible at times. Almost got Shedeur killed last year on multiple occasions. But I think when you look at it, Pat Shurmur, you know, is the OC again. He's going to run the ball more. They did slow it down once. Remember, Sean Lewis got sent packing as offensive coordinator, and under Sean Lewis, they were playing fast. They slowed it down under Shurmur, and now they're going to probably look to – they've said it all spring and fall, Dion and Shurmur, the two of them, head coach and OC. We have to fucking run the football more, and we have to commit to it. That's all there is.
Can they?
Can they?
They want to be pass happy. I don't know if they can. Yeah.
That's going to be the thing as far as that. They want to run it more. Are they going to have the ability to do that, especially against a team like Georgia Tech? I think just matchup-wise, it's definitely an advantage perhaps on both sides of the football here for Georgia Tech, because let's not forget Colorado's defense has a lot of room for improvement as well. Yes, they improved a little bit at times last year, but in the trenches on the D-line, while it wasn't nearly as bad as it was on the O-line, it certainly still was far from great. So, yeah, I think it's a Georgia Tech win. I'm not as comfortable laying at 4 on the road, but I'm still leaning to the Georgia Tech side. And the people that bet the under are probably onto something, because I think Colorado will play slower. Georgia Tech's going to be, run heavy quite a bit. They'll always commit to running the football, being balanced. So the total coming down does not surprise me. And this is another game where there could be a little bit of rain Friday night in Boulder. So 57 down to 52.5. I think there's reasons to believe that move down with the total makes sense. C-Mac, what do you think here? Georgia Tech, Colorado.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Hit the like button if you haven't. My guy, Colorado Bowl, shout out to my guy. Been around a long time. Appreciate my guy, always with support. Ross Pitts, Timothy, Andrew G, my guy, Nuke Worker, Old E. What up? T-Moss. Thanks for joining us. Week 1. Yeah, Colorado. The first thing it says, how they going to run the ball and commit to it. Like, consistently. I don't know how. And then this offensive line, can Salter hold up? I don't know. I thought their defense played a little bit better last year at times to Colorado. And they were a team, just to touch back with UNLV, unbelievable last couple of years of turnovers. And luckily that game 1, they had a bunch of to start the year. So Colorado was pretty good that way too. I think they were top 10 in that regard. So they're at home. This is always a tough place to play. But Georgia Tech, yeah. Haynes, the offensive line, still solid. They have enough playmakers. I think their defense will be pretty good. What I kind of was looking at with that under was a Colorado team total under. I needed to look at it a little bit more, but that's where I was looking at in this game. This should be good. Colorado, and I mean, there's the 2 biggest guys are gone. It's just made the difference, and they started to be a team great ATS last year with them, at least, that they're kind of where the fade the year before, fade early on. They were really good, but different times now for Dion there.
All right, last game for Friday night, Western Michigan and Michigan State. We've got Michigan State 20.5-point favorites, 50 the total. Because the coach is Jonathan Smith, a coach I like, I'm giving Michigan State the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, they didn't have a great year last year, but I do think because of the coach, they're going to take a step forward better. And a part of that is believing in, obviously, the quarterback here for Michigan State entering this season. And if he can take that next step, Aiden Childs, which is still up for debate, but they like him, and they think he's got the potential to be better. And like I said, Jonathan Smith, year by year, it was a positive build for him at Oregon State. You're hoping he can bring that here to Michigan State, even though last year they finished 5-7. They do have 9 starters back on offense. That's the good sign. He was better in the last 7 games, I should point out, Aiden Childs. His numbers improved significantly. So you hope the way he finished the season a little bit better, fewer turnovers, fewer mistakes, more efficiency is the way he's going to be able to play this year at quarterback here for Michigan State going into the year. It'd be interesting to see. Last year, the offensive line certainly had its issues, but they do have, a little more experience there, and they brought in some transfers to shore up and improve that O-line. So I think that unit should take a step. I think the offense will take a step. They will certainly, in my opinion, at least should improve from 17.5 points per game last year. I think there will be a nice little improvement here for Michigan State on offense. Last year, they were good against the run, but pass rush and secondary did have their share of issues last year. The defensive line coming into this year does have some concerns. They are a little bit more experienced, if you will, in the secondary, which did struggle at times last year, but should be able to take a step forward. But this year, the D-line, it was solid last year against the run. But like I said, this year, There's more question marks around that D-line due to some personnel shuffling going on. When you look at Western Michigan, this is obviously a program that has been in some flux here the last couple of seasons. Whether they're going to be able to take a big step forward here this season remains to be seen. But obviously last year for Western Michigan, they were 6-6. They did go bowling. Lance Taylor, third year. Certainly this is one of these situations where you would expect the team to make a jump that third year. Will this be that year? It's going to be the case. I was very tempted to lay, and I guess below 21. I actually still lean a little to Michigan State laying the number because I think this could be a game where they can get themselves off to a good start, beat down a team. They're capable of doing that. Western Michigan, I know Western Michigan covered against Wisconsin, a Big Ten team in non-conference play. But like I said, I think Michigan State this year will show some improvement. I'm kind of leaning to laying it here. I don't really want Western Michigan in this spot on the road. This is a guy, Brady Jones is their quarterback. And apparently in camp, he's been competing all camp with Brock Lowry, the other guy he was battling with. And that tells me that Lance Taylor was not really ready to commit to anyone right away, which means he may have two guys he doesn't really have the utmost confidence in going into the year. And that could be a concern here for Western Michigan in this first game. So I do lean Spartans. I don't know if I get there because 3 touchdown favorites is not always their point spread role that I like them in, but I lean their direction. CMAC, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Michigan State's going to be better. Of course, with Smith there, he's just a good football coach. I think things will improve. I always like his defense. The coordinators are there. Because when I looked at this, I kind of looked Western Michigan's team total under in this game.
That could be a good look. Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at that, and I think, like you hit on, I think Michigan State kind of I lean to them covering this number, 3 touchdowns. They kind of always beat them up. They play them, seems like early on in the year. Western Michigan, too. There's a couple of things going through. They're just bad on the road, bad as road dogs. Western Michigan's lost 19-20 in the Big Ten first half. So it's like maybe Michigan State here first half, So I was looking at all that in this game, and because I just don't know what we get. You talk about the quarterback with Jones there, Western Michigan. How good would the defense be? They have a new D coordinator, O'Leary. So, yeah, I think it's a Spartan spot. I just as now I got to look how to bet this. Maybe them first half, maybe Western Michigan team total under here.
All right, we turn now to marquee games. The rest of the show will be marquee games on Saturday. And we'll also talk about the 2 Sunday games and the Labor Day Monday night game as Chapel Bill will make his debut as head coach of North Carolina. But we'll start with Saturday. Old Dominion and Indiana. We've got Indiana 22.5-point home favorites, 54.5 the total in this game. This is such an interesting game. You might think, what are you, nuts? Old Dominion and Indiana? And you think this is going to be pretty interesting? Well, you know what Indiana did last year. Obviously, Curt Cignetti, outstanding first season. Dream year, surpassed anyone's expectations, getting to the college football playoff, being one of the best teams in the Big Ten last year. Obviously, it was a great year all around. Defense was solid. Curtis Rourke was good at quarterback. Curtis Rourke is gone. I don't know if the quarterback production is going to drop off all that much. I'm a big fan of Fernando Mendoza, who transfers in from Cal. I've mentioned that before. I think under Cignetti's leadership, they're still going to be able to move the football and put up some points with Mendoza leading the way for them at the quarterback spot this season. I think I always know these Curt Cignetti coach teams to be good in the trenches, and I expect that. Now, obviously, the running back group is the concern because they lose a lot, but Roman Hemby, it'll be interesting to see, how they're going to go about addressing that coming into the season. When you look at it, but Roman Hemby comes in from Maryland, Kalen Black, Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper, pretty good receivers. Like I said, Mendoza, I think there's still going to be ability to move the football, score points here for this Indiana team this year. Defensive side of the football, that'll be the interesting one because this year they do get a lot. They got some really good players back. They got their best sack person, Mikhail Kamara's back. They've got a lot of their better tacklers back. That should definitely help this defense out. The secondary in particular, could be really solid this year for Indiana. And I like the look of their defense as well to improve, because there were times last year that defense was great against the weak, and there were games where they got not exposed, but for instance, when they played Notre Dame in the playoff, you could tell when they stepped up in class, Indiana's defense did struggle a bit more. But like I said, I still think the defense improves. I have a reluctancy to fade Indiana in these spots early in the year. Signetti's had all off season to prepare. They could just drill a team like Old Dominion, but I hesitate to say that because I am high on Old Dominion coming into this year. I've said that. I like their quarterback, Colton Joseph, dual threat, can run. For a white kid, he can really, really run. I was impressed last year when I saw him. He can throw the football as well. Good touch. The Old Dominion offense took off when he became the quarterback midway through last year. It wouldn't shock me if they have some success here. That's how much I think of the Old Dominion offense coming into the year. I think this Colton Joseph and this offense could be very solid for them. It's really going to be on the road against a Big Ten team with an improving defense. Can they have success moving the ball? Defense is still going to be the area where you're a little bit concerned. That they were a team that gave up some points at times, and they'll be in tough here against Mendoza and that Hoosiers offense. So I think this could be an over at 54.5. Sidewise, it's tough, C-Mac. Indiana, and we know what they did in these big favorite spots last year. They destroyed teams.
Yeah,
they were an UTS machine. I don't really know if I want to go up against Indiana in this spot. This was their role. They were a bully. They beat the hell out of the teams that they were supposed to beat. But Old Dominion, man, I've got them circled as a bet on team. So I'm not sure I'm going to lay it with Indiana, because I think Old Dominion, especially on offense with Joseph, I think they're going to be able to have some success. So I kind of gravitate more to over. And if I were to back Old Dominion, I would not do it with the plus 22.5. I would take the team total over instead for Old Dominion. C-Mac, what do you think here? ODU, Indiana.
Yeah, I think of this one too with Indiana. Like, if they are around here covering this number, I think they get their team total. I just don't trust the Old Dominion defense.
Yeah.
I think in conference they could play better, but I think Indiana, look at them here early and often. I like their team total in this game. Joseph is good. They have a little bit, some issues to get some of these guys. Like, a lot of the receivers are out. There's a few in there. So I think this is one team, as the year goes on, to look to back Old Dominion, I think, as it gets more comfortable with some of these guys in there. So, yeah, in this game, I think this is Indiana. The defense will still be solid, was very, very good. And one thing, teams like this, they've been very good. You mentioned it's like now when they step up at home, and they've been pretty dominant. So if you don't love the 3 touchdowns, I still think they get their team total here as Indiana.
All right, New Mexico and Michigan. We've got the Michigan Wolverines, 34.5-point home favorites here at the Big House. 49.5 the total in this game. Obviously, New Mexico, this offense last year is really what kept them going because the defense was just pathetic. But their offense had Devin Dampier, who is now at Utah, and they had a great offense, good quarterback, good offensive coordinator, and now all of a sudden they lose all of that, and Jason Eck, who takes over now as the head coach here at New Mexico after being at Idaho prior to this. And Idaho's been a solid team, and it's not the worst hire because he had success at Idaho, Jason Eck, but big job ahead of him, obviously, especially when you're being asked to play in Michigan here, first game of the season. There's really I'm not going to go into too much detail with this game in particular, but I wanted to bring it up because it's, Michigan's involved, but I think it's a very difficult game. I mean, I don't want to take New Mexico, even with all these points, but at the same point in time, Michigan's offense has always been a bit of the concern. Their defense should be really good, by the way. Michigan should have a really, really good defense. The question is going to be Bryce Underwood, who's going to take over as the starting quarterback. Can he offer? He's got to improve the passing game a little bit because he got nothing from Orji and anybody really throwing the football last year at quarterback for Michigan. So you've got to hope that there's going to be a little bit more bite in the aerial attack for Michigan this year with Bryce Underwood. That doesn't mean I'm excited about laying 34.5, 35 in the very first game of the season. I think if anything, maybe you play a New Mexico team total under. I think that defense could be really nasty for Michigan.
It's a touchdown, though. All right, this is a touchdown team total. That's what I think. Yeah.
And I lean under for the full game. But C-Mac, what do you think? New Mexico, Michigan.
Yeah, this is going to be the one. I think some weird shit can happen, though. It seems like they get one wild touchdown, who knows, and maybe a field goal. But that's what I was thinking. I don't know how New Mexico scores here against Michigan. I think they should be able to just run it easily down New Mexico's throat here and win easy. I think we'll get to them later on in the year with Michigan, but I think this is an easy win here for Michigan.
I would lay it before I take it. Like I would lay the points with Michigan in this game before I take New Mexico. That I will tell you, because I really think it's going to be really, really
Mikey.
Tough. Yeah, there he is, Sports Money, Mike M. I have not seen him or talked to him in a while. I hope he's doing well. Good to see him in the chat. We'll shout out everyone in the chat toward the end of the show, but we got a lot more games still to go. So on we go. Syracuse and Tennessee. Next up here, we've got Tennessee 14-point favorites, 51 being the total here in this game. This is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. So make sure you are aware of this is a neutral field here for this matchup here between Syracuse and Tennessee, a little ACC versus SEC battle here between these two teams. Syracuse, we got to give the flowers a little bit here to Fran Brown. Actually did a pretty nice job here first year with Syracuse last year. I think certainly to a lot of people's expectations, did a fantastic job. 9 wins last year, won a bowl game, pretty solid. But the problem is a lot of returning production gone. In fact, of all the ACC teams, no team has fewer returning production this year than Syracuse. So that is definitely something to be a little bit concerned about. Kyle McCord was great for this team, is gone now to the NFL. A lot of their top receivers are gone. And the guy that really they're going to miss, and to Penn State's benefit, they've got him now, is Trebor Pena. That guy was an outstanding receiver for this Syracuse team. No question about that. Accounted for so much in the offense. LaQuint Allen, the great running back, is gone. So there's definitely a lot. But the offensive line, questionable coming into the year. So I think that's the biggest thing. And this total's taken a hit, C-Mac, 55 down to 51. I think a lot of people see that, man alive, they lost a shit ton on offense, Syracuse, from last year, that it'll be very, very difficult to ask them to be as good on the offensive side of the football here this season. Lots of turnover. Like I said, the offensive line, big question mark. Steve Angeli is going to end up being the quarterback here for Syracuse. He transfers in from Notre Dame. You remember him being there before, but he's got a lot of issues around him. O-line's rebuilt. Lost all your receivers. Lost, your all-world running back. How will Syracuse make do with that? It's going to end up being the question. Meanwhile, on the defensive side of the football, defense last year for Syracuse, did have their issues, struggled to stop the run. The D-line, they tried to make some adds in the portal. It'll be interesting to see how much of that group takes a step forward. Secondary could be solid, but again, we'll have to see how it performs. Meanwhile, Tennessee, and we know under Josh Heupel they're going to play fast. That's not going to change this season for Tennessee. But I worry about what we're going to get out of Joey Aguilar. He's just not a quarterback that I was all that excited about when he played at App State. I thought there was a lot of missed throws, the easy throws. He sometimes missed them, and sometimes that concerned me about him. And for this Tennessee Volunteers team, I think on offense, when you think of the offensive situations they've had in the past, this is probably one of the weaker offensive situations, and a lot of starting a season, and a lot of it has to do with the quarterback situation here. They have Dylan Sampson's gone, of course, from this team. The offensive line is a bit rebuilding as well for this Tennessee Volunteer squad. The good news is they do have 8 returning starters back on the defense. This actually could be a rare season where Tennessee is starting the year leaning more on their defense than their offense. You haven't been able to say that very often, But that could be the case this year with Tennessee, where, believe it or not, the defense could be a little bit ahead of this offense. And like I said, not the biggest Joey Aguilar fan. So I get why the total's gone down. I actually think it could be, under. Syracuse rebuilding, starting from scratch on offense. Tennessee defense could actually be solid this year, and the offense actually has question marks. So maybe this is an under, and certainly bettors are thinking so with this total going down. It's tough from a side perspective. I'd rather bet against these teams in this spot. I guess I'd still lean Syracuse. I'm not running out to bet Tennessee and lay 14 with Joey Aguilar at quarterback. But Syracuse does have a lot of issues. Too many for me to really want to back them. C-Mac, what do you think? Syracuse, Tennessee.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of question marks. That's why I think this total's going down. Bunch of the receivers leave, and we'll see with Angeli.
Didn't play as fast on offense last year either under Fran Brown compared to
they were efficient. They weren't as crazy fast. Yeah. Angeli, I think he'll be pretty good. It might take some time. Syracuse defense, they got a bunch of guys that are coming in. They do have a couple of good guys in the secondary, Grant, Chestnut, and they got to be better because they gave up, too many points. I think they gave right around 30 last year. So there's that. So Tennessee might have some success, but it's Aguilar here. Like I just don't trust him at all. I've seen this guy enough. Maybe at Tennessee helps, but he's not coming into a great offensive line. They got one starter. They got no seniors in this group, so they got 4 new offensive linemen. Does Tennessee
loaded with freshmen and sophomores?
Yeah, bunch of redshirt freshmen, sophomores for this line. But the big thing though is that defense should be good, and that's what we just hit on the total under. I think it could definitely stay under, even Syracuse's team total under in this game. And they're good. They have a pretty good secondary. They got a pretty good D line. Joseph's a very good DN for Tennessee, so they got some real talent in that game. So yeah, to me, this is an under. I wouldn't be running delay with Tennessee. They're at home, opening game maybe, and I got to see more from this Syracuse team. Flat out.
I get it, no doubt. All right, next up, Florida Atlantic and Maryland. We've got Maryland 14.5 point home favorites, 60.5 the total. This is the same situation that I mentioned last week with Western Kentucky. We have it here with Florida Atlantic. A coach and quarterback that are very familiar with each other are coming as a package deal here to Florida Atlantic. And I think what that means is that right away this team is going to be very, very potent on offense. And what I mean by that here for Florida Atlantic is the duo, obviously, of the Western Kentucky transfer, Caden Veldkamp, who's going to be now the quarterback here for this Florida Atlantic Owls team entering this season, and Zach Kitley, new head coach, who will also be calling the plays for this Florida Atlantic team as head coach and OC. We know the job he did previously prior to getting this first head coaching opportunity. He was an OC at Texas Tech, OC at Western Kentucky. Before that, you know what you're going to get. Super extreme pace and tempo, throwing the ball a lot. And from all indications here, he's got familiarity with his guy, Caden Veldkamp, who's going to be the starter. This is just perfect. Just like with Western Kentucky, you're going to hit the ground running. You're going to score points. You're going to have continuity, familiarity on offense. And I think you're going to see that. And I know you're on the road and you're facing a Big Ten team. But let's not act like Maryland's defense last year was the 85 Bears. Okay, it was not. It was not close to that. So I think there's not. Florida Atlantic would not shock me to see them get into the end zone and score some points here in this game. Now the problem is going to be, can they stop Maryland? And that's obviously going to be the concern here for Florida Atlantic going into this season, is that defensive side of the football. For Maryland, there are questions on offense coming into this season. There definitely are. You lose Billy Edwards, no longer the quarterback. You look at their quarterback situation entering this season. Malik Washington, who's also been banged up a little bit here in camp, was expected to be the quarterback, but with him being a little bit banged up and dealing with this lower body injury he's had throughout camp, do they maybe pivot elsewhere? Does Mike Loxley here as far as his quarterback. Who knows? But again, you're talking about a Florida Atlantic team that you should be able to still rely on good O-line, run the football, be able to move the football here, even if there's question marks about who your quarterback's going to be given the state of Florida Atlantic's defense. So this to me is a clear, as you would say, over for me, CMAC, in this game. I do like over 60.5. I'll be honest, from a side perspective, I'm thinking of taking the Owls here, Florida Atlantic, above 14. I don't like Maryland at all this year. I don't necessarily, even against a Florida Atlantic team breaking. Remember, a new head coach, but an offense that should be able to hit the ground running because of the familiarity with the system that Caden Veltkamp is going to have with Kitley. So Florida Atlantic in the over. I like them both. CMAC, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the over could get there. This Maryland team just isn't very good, at least right now. And even against FAU, I don't think they should be favored like this. I like FAU as well. Sneaky, too. They've been good against Big Ten teams, have covered against them in the past. Veltkamp's there. There's some good weapons that I think he could use, like you talk about, where they could score. Maryland, should be able to score on this FAU defense, which isn't great, still needs some work, and that at times was awful. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think there's points. This was a game I was looking at a bunch a couple days ago that kind of jumped out to me, which was even a little higher than this, 14.5, I think. Wasn't it 16? Maybe I'm.
It was 17, and it's down
17,
to
16.5. Yeah.
I agree with the money. The people do not like Maryland, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was when I was going through it. I kind of had it circled, running through everything. So, yeah, I think they can hang around here.
All right, good stuff indeed. All right, next up as we continue along here, we have Coastal Carolina and Virginia. Virginia, 11-point home favorites, 58 the total here in this game. Very interesting situation here. Obviously, there's a big year for Tony Elliott here with Virginia. There's no doubt. There's big if he had one more bad year and he's gone. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no question. This is a massive season for him. He needs results. He needs W's this year, or else he's going to be sending his resume out after this season. But it'll be interesting to see what Virginia brings to the table here. It's another year where there's a decent amount of question marks for Virginia. Chandler Morris is going to be the starting quarterback. He's been around the block, to say the least. Oklahoma, TCU, North Texas last year, and he was great with North Texas last year. He carried the offense carried North Texas last year. But now you're going back to Power 4 competition, and how will that offense fare here for Virginia? But again, he's got a boatload of experience. Certainly should help having him under center. No question. It'll be, can this offense take a step forward? Defense is going to have to improve, though, because this is another team where a lot of the times their struggles have been on the defensive side of the football. Is this Cavaliers team going to be able to, show improvement defensively to help out Chandler Morris? That's going to be something to monitor here for Virginia going into this season for sure. But again, they've now got an experienced QB at the helm. That should help with Chandler Morris, no doubt. The offensive line will have to be better, though, because last year it was terrible protecting the quarterback. Like I said, I think they're fine at the skill positions, running back and receivers. The O-line's got to step up, though, because Chandler Morris can't be running for his life. When you look at the defense, again, last year it struggled, 95th, 32.2 points per game allowed. It'll be interesting to see up front. They do lose Jonas Sanker on this defense. It'll be interesting to see. The linebacking core is solid. Cornerback, there's some experience, but they're relying a lot on transfers, and that's dicey. You can either hit on the transfers for this secondary or not. So that's still a unit in question. Coastal Carolina is interesting. Obviously, Tim Beck is returning. He's got a brand new offensive coordinator this year, and Coastal has been pretty slow as far as a pace standpoint is concerned. And when I saw this hire, Drew Hollingshead, the new OC, who's a disciple of Mike Leach, wants to throw the ball a lot, air raid, and yet he was saying stuff like, I want to throw the ball a lot, be an air raid offense. I'm like, okay, they're going to play a lot faster. But he was saying stuff like, we want to throw the ball a lot, but we still want to maintain our pretty slow, deliberate pace. I'm like, what? I've never heard of an air raid offense before that plays slow. I mean, that's the thing. When you go air raid, the reason why raid is in the lingo for the system is because you're playing fast. It's like a raid. So he wants to. So from what I gathered, Coastal wants to throw the ball a lot more and play air raid, but they want to still play slow. I mean, it's just a weird fit, because I've never heard of an air raid offense that slows down the pace before. So this is one of these deals where I kind of want to see what it looks like.
Slow raid.
Yeah, with Coastal, slow raid. Yeah, with Coastal before I really make it, because initially I said, okay, we got to bet overs with Coastal, but now hearing that they're gonna still play slow, I'm not as in a rush to bet overs in Coastal games, but it's definitely something to wait and see, take a wait and see approach with for Coastal Carolina. Not to mention their quarterback leaves a lot to be desired. Not the biggest fan of MJ Morris, who transfers over from NC State and Maryland. This is a guy with all-time, what has he got? 19 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. The completion rate's okay, but not great. So the jury's out what you're going to get from this offense led by MJ Morris at quarterback. Again, this is a tough side. I mean, I don't know if I want to lay 11 with Virginia. I would lean Virginia maybe if this line, the people are on Coastal. This line's fallen a bit, but Chandler Morris, I rate him a lot higher than MJ Morris. It's a Morris versus Morris battle.
Morris and Morris,
Chandler over MJ. So I'm kind of leaning to laying it, but there's better bets on the board. I just lean Virginia, lean over, because they're going to throw the ball a lot more, Coastal, and I think Virginia on offense is going to be a lot better. And there are still some questions on defense. So I still do lean to the over here. But again, this Coastal talking out of both sides of his mouth from the new OC. Yeah, we're going to play air raid, but we're going to play slow. It's kind of baffling. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one of the games in all the games here that I really didn't love at all. I think Virginia wins it, and I lean to them. I don't even at home want to lay over 10 points. And both teams have problems defensively a little bit in this game. I think Virginia could take maybe advantage of it a little bit more against Coastal. So yeah, this was a bunch. Coastal has the new OC. This is a pass for me. There's a couple of these here late. But, as of now, I want nothing to deal with.
All right, we got a big one now to talk about. Big noon, first Fox Big Noon Saturday game. Gus and Joel back again in our lives. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, they'll be there at the Shoe. Texas Longhorns, Ohio State Buckeyes, Ohio State 2.5 point home favorites, 47.5 the total. Julian Sayin has won the job. I always expected him to be the starting quarterback here for Ohio State. Now it's going to be interesting to see. You do go, say what you will about what he's going to do at the next level, Will Howard, but he fit this program well. He was terrific in the playoff for Ohio State en route to the national championship victory last year. You got to downgrade the Ohio State offense, at least a little bit, from what it was last year, because Julian Sayin was like a 5-star recruit, I think, to Alabama at one point. That tells you all you need to know about just the hype and expectations there were with him. And the good news for Sayin here with this Ohio State team is he does have weapons to work with. Even with Egbuka gone, and it starts obviously with Jeremiah Smith, certainly a Heisman contender without a doubt. He's going to be absolutely terrific. I like, too, that they bring in Max Clare from Purdue. He's a very good tight end. That was a nice get for Ryan Day for this Ohio State offense. That's certainly something that should help going into this season. Don't sleep on Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes either at the receiver spot. They're really good players, too. For Ohio State. The O-line, that's going to be the unit to monitor here going into this game. I'm not totally sure it's going to be nearly as good, but they do have 3 starters back, so it should still be a pretty solid above average offensive line. There's no question. The defense, meanwhile, for Ohio State now, we know they had a pretty good last year's defense was pretty good overall. And they were well coordinated and well coached. Not only was it a very good defense overall, Ohio State on all 3 levels, D-line, linebacker, secondary, but they were also very well coached and coordinated by Jim Knowles. Well, Jim Knowles is gone. He went to Penn State, the former Ohio State defensive coordinator, now at Penn State. And of all people to hire, Matt Patricia, really? That's the guy we're going to bring in to be the defensive coordinator here at Ohio State? To say that hire does not impress me would be an understatement. You know my thoughts and feelings about Matt Patricia here. I got to see it because I thought his defenses have underachieved in the past, have been nowhere near as good as they've not played to their talent level in the past at times under Matt Patricia. Now, this is college, not the pros. So I know some people might give him the benefit of the doubt, but like I said, I got to downgrade just until I see it, what the defense from my own two eyes. I have to downgrade the defense because I think the personnel is worse this year across the board. They lost a lot from that defense, and I don't like the DC hire. You can't tell me Matt Patricia on paper is a better defensive coordinator than Jim Knowles. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that with a straight face. So from that standpoint, I've got to downgrade the defense. And that could be trouble because we know Texas here brings in the kid wonder, Arch Manning, from one of the most famous football families of all time, the Mannings. They expect big things from him. They've got Wisner and Baxter back in the running back group, DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo, two outstanding receivers for Texas. They should be a really good offensive team. There's no doubt. Now, meanwhile, on the defensive side of the football, too, for Texas, there's reasons for pretty solid optimism from this group. And, you know, Arch Manning, we think he's ready for this. Now, again, we're going on the road, first game of the year. But, again, it's a defense with a new coordinator and new faces. So there's reason to expect that even though it's the first road outing here for Arch Manning, you know, there's definitely potential that he could still thrive. And now, again, we don't have a ton of opportunities to see him in big spots, obviously, because he was behind Ewers all that time in Texas. But like I said, he does have a rebuilding defense to go through. I do lean Texas, but like I said, it feels like I don't know if I want to bet him here because the hype is just so massive for Arch. And I don't know if I want to be on that hype train right away on the road until I see it for myself. Yeah. But I've got enough questions about Ohio State that I really don't want to back them either, even though they're laying now less than a field goal at home. So this is more of a watch game for me. It's a fascinating game. It's obviously arguably the biggest game on Saturday's board, this one. But like I said, I lean Texas, but I don't expect to be betting it. You know, it's just a lean for me on the Texas side and in this one. What do you think here, C-Mac? Obviously, it's a great matchup, Texas, Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch gone and a bunch still there when you look at this from the rematch of this game. You know, which was really, really good until the fourth quarter.
Right, playoff rematch, semifinal rematch, correct? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State scored that touchdown with about 6-7 minutes left. And of course, Texas has the scoop and score from Sawyer just ended it.
Yep.
But I thought the game, the yards, everything was pretty even in that matchup. It was a pretty good game. Well, I was on there was the under, team total under for Texas. I had both. I think this is an under. You know, this is hit. I'm even looking at the first half under because I just think there's a feeling out here a little bit. Ohio State has got new QB. You know, their offensive line you talked about. I think their defense is still going to be pretty good here with the changes. I mean, this was the top defense in the country. Texas, on the other hand, third best defense in the country.
Yes.
That was very, very good. And I think the offense is going to take a little bit of time here for Ohio State. Maybe it opens up here in the second half, but I think this first half under is the way to go. And there is still a bunch of talent. I mean, Texas still at Weiser's there at running back. Of course, they lost some of their wideouts, but I think they'll be all right. And Arch Manning, as much as saying this is his first start, he's played some, but I mean, he isn't a regular. Like, he has been out there slinging it for even a half a year. So I just think there's some nerves here. Probably some first half 2 field goal or even missed field goals in this game. I could see a bunch. And Texas, I think the defense is solid. That's what keeps them in this game or even could win. It's not easy to go to the shoe. And think about that. How about they were coming for his life day? Wanted to get rid of this guy after he loses to Michigan. All it takes is the playoffs, win it all, and they love him again. So until a new season starts.
Yeah, it's honeymoon again for Ohio State fans.
Oh, yeah.
Day together. Yeah.
You know, that guy was like,
yeah.
Yeah, he was loving it. But I think Texas defense is really Anthony Hill. That guy's an unbelievable linebacker. But he had 120 tackles,
defense. Yeah.
8 sacks. He's huge. They have a few great D line and even the secondary. So I think Texas is live doing. I think it's tight, and especially early the under here.
All right, this next game is not on the schedule, but someone mentioned it. Are you going to cover Marshall, Georgia? So I'll just briefly talk about it. I will not bet that game. I'm not laying that number with Georgia, 39 and a half. And I don't want Marshall. No chance. They lose everything from last year. The coach is gone. Like pretty much the entire team is gone. I'm not asking them to cover for me at Georgia, first game of the year. So that's an easy pass for me. Do you have anything there, C-Mac? Marshall, Georgia?
No, pass. Marshall last year, it's just everything's gone. The coach, he takes everyone with him from a team that was pretty good for who they are and who they played in their conference here.
Gunnar Stockton fan. I got to see more still from Gunnar Stockton for Georgia. Maybe under 55 and a half, maybe. Could you lean?
Yeah, the under a little bit. I mean, is Marshall really going to score a ton in this game? Their team total. So, yeah, that's where I'd look.
Toledo, Kentucky. Kentucky 7.5-point home favorites, 48.5 the total. This number's moved quite a bit, but still, anything above 7, I think it's playable. I like Toledo. I do not like what I'm seeing and hearing from Kentucky. I think the defense is going to step back. Zach Calzada is officially named the starting quarterback today. Great. I want to fade him. I don't think he's any good. And he's been around the block. I've never seen enough in him that makes me think, wow, that guy's a winning quarterback and a great quarterback in the college level. I think there's a lot of shakiness on that defensive side. Tucker Gleason is a very experienced starter back for Toledo at quarterback. I think they'll be able to move the football in this game. The Toledo defense, at times they're very solid. And again, this Kentucky offense, while they should have, again, the physical advantages and speed advantages, I get it. You're still talking SEC versus MAC. But I think Kentucky's got a lot of holes on this team, both sides of the ball. Mark Stoops feeling some pressure. On paper, I think this could be one of the weaker Kentucky teams in recent memory. Weaker at quarterback this year than they've been in any recent season, in my opinion, when they've had Leary, a veteran guy, and, of course, Will Levis before that. The quarterback production's probably taken a step down. And let's not forget, last year, and I was on Toledo last year, when they went to Mississippi State, and I know Mississippi State was a bad team last year, but still an SEC team on the road, and Toledo went on the road and beat the fucking brakes off Mississippi State last year, winning outright as a dog. So I think they're live here as well. I like the rocket ship. Toledo plus the points. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I look at this is under here for me. Okay. The one thing is, like, if Kentucky has a bunch of success running the ball, like maybe like breakaways, and that could get this game over. And Toledo, maybe not the best, defense, but Gleason's there. I think he will have some success. And the Kentucky defense has a little bit of gap, but I still think they're all right. It showed a little bit last year. Towards the end of the year, they kind of gave up a bunch of points.
Not the same, yeah.
They just weren't the same.
Not the same. Yep.
Yeah. So Hammond's still there, the coordinator, right? Or White, those guys. Okay. Yeah. I think they'll be all right here. I just think this is an under. Classic Kentucky opener. It could be close. So I like the under. Toledo might be in it. I think it's a little bit telling that the line's here too. It's just a touchdown.
All right, Colorado State and Washington. West Coast action on Saturday night. We've got Washington 21.5-point home favorites. Total here sitting at 54. It's gone above the key number of 21, but I still lean Washington here. I think they could really drill. And I like Washington coming into the year. I expect a step forward for Jed Fish, this program to get better. I like Damon Williams a lot, this quarterback, and he was outstanding in the bowl game. Now, we do need to see more. It's a small sample size, but I think there's a high upside, high ceiling for Damon Williams and this Washington Huskies offense with him at quarterback. And I can't say I like much about what's going on at Colorado State. It feels like a program kind of spinning their tires, spinning their wheels. 4 years now of Jay Norvell there, and it just, it really hasn't gotten all that much better for the most part for them. Last year, I guess, was better, 8-5, 6-1 in Mountain West play, but I don't see that sustaining itself. They had a lot of fortuitous results too, schedule related, easier opponents. Some good fortune went their way in a lot of games. I still don't think their defense is that great, and I still think, especially on the road against a Power 4 team like this, Braden Fowler Nicolosi, the quarterback who's going to be back for Colorado State, can be very mistake prone. And I think that could end up hurting him here a little bit in this game. And I also think Washington's defense probably takes that step forward as well this year. And you got an opportunity to have a good performance, get off on the right foot at home. I got in on Washington below 21. It was about a few weeks ago. But I still heavily lean Huskies. I don't really want much to do with Colorado State in this spot. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, when I was looking at this seems just like a perfect spot. I think this total is too high here. I was looking at this under in this game. Colorado State, not the same team consistently with our guy Fowler Nicolosi, Braden Fowler Nicolosi. He's the hyphen. Gotta love the hyphen in the last.
And Washington will run the football a lot with Jonah Coleman, very good running back. So that's going to chew up the pace a little bit. Yeah.
I think this game is an under in this one. The line's a little bit too big. Washington should take care of business at home. They have new coordinators. Washington does. But they brought in a bunch on the defensive side that I like. A couple of good linebackers, some good corners there from Arizona and a few other teams. So I think they'll be solid. And yeah, I think they'll just be able to pound the ball in this game. But I think at 55, 54 and a half, it's an under.
And don't say because the guy they hired is DC Washington is Ryan Walters that they're going to suck on defense because he was terrible as a head coach at Purdue. Don't forget how good a defensive coordinator he was.
There's a different, he was before he got that job.
Before he got the Purdue job as head coach. Some guys are better coordinators than head coaches. That's all there is to it. Now that he's back as a DC, he'll probably do well here, I think.
For sure. I think so, too.
All right, C-Mac will be back in just a sec. We'll roll on here. We've got Hawaii and Arizona next up here in this another West Coast affair. Arizona 17.5-point home favorites in this game. The total here sitting at looks like 52 across the board. Totals come down a bit, and I'm a little bit conflicted because Hawaii's offense did not look spectacular against Stanford at home last week. I know they squeaked it out the last second field goal, but I don't think anyone can sit there and say, wow, it was a great performance by Micah Alejado and this Hawaii offense in their first game. We'll see if they can take a step forward here on that side of the football against Arizona. I think when you look at the Wildcats, because when you look at the Wildcats coming into this year, now we remember last year, first of all, Noah Fafita is back at quarterback. But they do lose Tetaroa McMillan, who was just such a dynamic, explosive, big play receiver in the passing game for Arizona. They will miss him to a solid extent. But I think, too, because he was not your average great receiver. That guy was targeted a shit ton last year by Noah Fafita. And it seemed like when teams took McMillan away, that passing game just was nowhere close to as efficient. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But it looks like here for Arizona, it's weird because I look at Hawaii as, their offense didn't light it up against Stanford, but their defense was quite solid. Their defense played pretty well against Ben Gulbranson and the Stanford offense last week, bottled them up pretty good. Let's not forget, Stanford only scored 20 points, and one of those points was a gift touchdown where Alejado got sacked in the end zone, and Stanford recovered it for a touchdown. They got a defensive touchdown and still only got 20 points in that game, Stanford. So you really do have to give Hawaii's defense credit. They played a real solid game last week against Stanford. See if they can carry that forward. Meanwhile, their offense wasn't so, and of course that game stayed under. So it kind of makes you think maybe Hawaii might be, at least at the moment, totals-wise, an under team. But Arizona, I want to bet overs because when you look at them, they're going to go through a pretty big-time scheme change on offense. Seth Dagey comes in first season. They are going to play much faster on offense this year compared to last year. So they're kind of a team I want to, target for overs this season. This potential, this line should be very good. They went portal heavy, and the O-line looks like it's got a pretty good amount of talent, no question. Ishmael Mahdi is a very good running back. And I think, there's other players at receiver that can step up, fill the void of McMillan being gone. I think when you look at the defensive line, or for the defense overall for this Arizona team, they struggled obviously last year at times, and they're going to have to definitely show some improvement this year. They do have 9 starters back, but again, it's a defense with a lot of room for improvement. So it's a tricky totals game. You look at Hawaii last week and the way they played, and you kind of think, geez, I kind of want to bet Hawaii unders. But then you look at the Arizona scheme change, playing faster under Seth Dagey, the new OC, and it makes you think, wow, Arizona, I want to play overs. So it's kind of a conflict here with the total. It's always one of these deals, right? Hawaii's played the game. Arizona's now playing, this game here. So who's got the advantage? But Hawaii away from the island, even getting 17.5 is a little bit tricky for me to trust. The money's poured in on Arizona, I can tell you that. 10.5 all the way up to 17.5. But I don't feel overly confident where these teams are at right now. So as of now, I'm going to stay on the sidelines with this one. C-Mac, what do you think? Hawaii, Arizona.
Yeah, is it now maybe enough? Because I thought this one, it was lower, like Arizona here, but now over 17.
Yeah.
This team was just total different from the last year. And hopefully they get back to an offense that could get going like you talked about. And I thought it was just horrible last year. Hawaii in that game, they moved the ball. They didn't run it as good as I thought they could, and Stanford ran the ball well against Hawaii, in it. So, and one thing, they couldn't finish drives there, Hawaii, in the second half. It just didn't happen.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
14, too much stalling, I thought. And I thought the play calling I thought they should have took a few more chances. Hawaii, a little bit too much short, dink and dunk type play for them. So I think the moves Arizona you talked about, will the defense be a bunch better? They bring back those 8 or 9 starters. I don't know. I mean, they're at home. I think they win here. It's just, do you want to lay it with them? Maybe their team total gets there. How slow is Hawaii going to play to Arizona? Of course, they want to let, you know what I mean? They're a little bit quicker. That kind of look at that in this game.
I'll tell you this, though, struggling at home with Stanford, and you've had all offseason to prepare, and that's a little concerning for me. For Hawaii, but that's what's making me hesitant.
Yeah, well, that's why it's moved. I mean, Stanford still is, Stanford. When you in that game, I think that's why it just didn't move in the end. What we were looking at, that game would be tight.
All right, next up, Utah and UCLA. We've got Utah 6-point road favorites, 51.5 the total at the Rose Bowl there in Pasadena, where this game will be. Anything less than 7, I still lean Utah. Now the numbers moved. I still like Utah. I think they can win by a touchdown, if not more. I really think this is a bounce back year for Whittingham. I love that he's brought in what he has on offense. Devin Dampier was one of my favorite group of 5 quarterbacks last year. That's how well he played last year for
a whole bad team. Yeah,
he was
excellent. Defense.
Jason Beck, his offensive coordinator, goes with him to Utah. There's going to be familiarity right away, and I think an ability to move the football. I also think Utah's an over team totals-wise, so I kind of lean that way as well, 51.5. They're going to play faster a little bit, and that's not been Whittingham's MO, but this year they're looking to play with a little bit more pace, explosivity, throw the ball more big plays on offense. So the over is appealing to me in this game as well, but I just don't think UCLA will be able to trade points for 4 quarters here with Utah. And I know Nico Iamaleava is the guy now coming in from Tennessee for UCLA. And people are going to think, oh, maybe he's going to be able to. Here's the thing. If he's such a great quarterback, why was it such a struggle for him to find a landing spot? Why did he end up? And I know he's got some California roots. That's part of it. But, I thought, there'd be better options for him as far as exiting Tennessee with what was going on there than UCLA. And I know maybe he's playing close to home. That's appealing. But don't you want to win? Don't you want to be on a program going in a good direction? I don't know if necessarily Deshaun Foster and UCLA is the team that's going in the right direction. Now, they did play a little bit more competitively down the stretch last year. Let's give them some credit for that. But like I said, I think there's a tough opener. Utah on defense as well. That's another thing, too. Their defense struggled last year, but they had quarterback injuries. The offense couldn't move the football, and I think the Utah defense got tired and worn out as the season went on. I expect a return to form. They're always good in the trenches, Utah, and I think they've got it in them to win this game by touchdown, if not more. So anything less than 7, I still like Utah here on the road, minus the points, and I lean over as well. C-Mac, what do you think? Utah, UCLA.
This game, I think it was great when I was looking through this game. I think you could go a bunch of different ways, a little bit from who's in and out, a little bit on this total. Like, you think Utah's going to play faster from everything we saw, with Dampier. I don't know. I got to see it first with how fast they really are going to play. And I don't trust them, really, Utah, just to go. I know they've gone to the Rose Bowl in the past and have won and covered a couple times, here. 52-45, huge game, But UCLA usually at home is pretty good. The problem is that defense that was so good that slowed everything down, they got nobody really coming back for UCLA.
That's concerning. Yeah.
That's a little bit, which I think they're going to have some good football players, but yeah, from that defense is really good.
In other situations, C-Mac, quarterback and OC continuity, because they're coming from the same program, New Mexico, right away. He knows the play inside and out.
That's true.
Dampier.
That's true. I just and I think Utah, of course, the defense will be solid. It kind of took a hit a little bit last year, but it was tough. I mean, they're always on the field. A fucking horrible quarterback play.
Yeah.
It was just so bad. And Nico, I think he's the curveball. So the defense with UCLA, just who's going to be playing, going through all that, and how are they going to look. And then Nico, I mean, obviously it gets talented, but we saw as the year went on, all the hype early, it was beating up the bad teams. It showed. So, and I'm not crazy about it, but he, new start here with the Bruins. I just think there's too many questions with him and that defense, because I think UCLA can be in this football game flat out. I think this game is tight. I'd want them. There's no 7s. I was kind of seeing that this got to 7 with a lot of Utah love that people was going to look to jump on UCLA. And, I think a game like maybe 27-23, because it's going to just, maybe there's a bunch of points. Like, I think if you probably look around, there's people think there's points.
Yeah, if you haven't bet Utah already, I would split, and you still want to bet them, I would split it at least with spread and team total, because I could see team total hitting, and maybe they only win by 4, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the questions on defense has kept me that maybe this is just a watch and not bet on UCLA.
It's fast. It's a good game, though. I like it. A late night.
Yeah, I thought this game
Saturday night, that'll be fun to watch. There
was one of the best when I was kind of going through it the last couple of days.
Definitely be very interesting there. All right, Northwestern and Tulane. We've got Tulane, 5.5-point home favorites, 46 the total in this game. Northwestern getting a lot of love, and I understand it. The program, it could be a little under the radar this year. I mean, everything kind of went backward. Don't forget that David Braun, when he took over this program, and that's when, and that I'm not going to go into it, but he took over because Pat Fitzgerald was getting skewered, and now we're finding out he really didn't do anything wrong. It's just a disgrace that they would treat a guy like that, but he's done so much for that program. But don't get me started on that.
Jump to conclusion,
Jump to conclusions with no fucking facts or evidence, which is just totally absurd. That's another story, but it's David Braun's benefit because he took over and did a great job that first year in a brutal situation. And I think when you look at this Northwestern team coming into this year, fell back to 4-8 last year, but on offense, which was terrible last year, but you bring in a bona fide starting quarterback that could be really good. Preston Stone. Now, Preston Stone had his bad games, no question. But Preston Stone gives them way more of a puncher's chance at quarterback transferring from SMU here to Northwestern to be solid on offense. And I think that's important. There finally seems to be some O-line depth and continuity this year, so they should be able to protect better for Preston Stone, which is important because he's had some injuries in the past. And then when you look at the defense, I think the front seven certainly could take big steps forward this year. That up front group could be the strongest part of the defense. Aiden Hubbard, who led them in sacks, returns this year for Northwestern. So I think the defense takes a step as well. And I think this is definitely improved talent, both sides of the ball here for David Braun this year. Now, the problem is they're going up against one of the better group of 5 programs. Tulane out of the AAC has always been very good, going back to Willie Fritz when he was here, and they haven't really skipped much of a beat with John Sumrall, who was a great hire from Troy after Willie Fritz departed. And Tulane's going to be another pretty solid team this year, and they ended up having Jake Retzlaff, the quarterback from BYU, drop in their lap and end up transferring there. So, it's nice to have an experienced quarterback starting for you. And I don't put it past John Sumrall to have his team ready. That being said, there are some questions about, some turnover with the roster going into this year. That'll be interesting to see how it goes. When you're talking about, Hughes in particular and all the rushing yards he had last year, being able to replace him, that's certainly not going to be easy here for this Tulane Green Wave team. So they do lose a decent amount here in the skill position talent, both running back and receiver. Now, the O-line, though, should still be solid. It's just, can they find those skill guys to be as impressive as they were last year? Tulane last year on defense, there were times it looked great, times it struggled. And they lose a lot on offense. They don't lose as much on defense, no question about that. But still, it's a defense that, with Northwestern's improvements and upgrades in quarterback and various parts of their offense, Northwestern might be able to score enough points in this game to stay in it. And I understand the early love for Northwestern. Now, below 7, it's fallen all the way to 5.5. Maybe you've lost too much value, but we know Northwestern is a dog under Braun. That first year he was good as a dog. Now that he's got a little better team around to coach, he might be good as a dog again this year. So I like the points with Northwestern. It has lost some value. I still lean that way, though. I think it's a close competitive game. I wouldn't even rule out Northwestern winning, but I think they give Tulane a battle. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think so, too. I think the value is tough. If you got over the touchdown, would be a little bit better. And with Stone, can they score enough? Will they? And what do we get from the Tulane defense? That's usually better at home the last few years, and a little bit up and down. And they've been good here at home, not only winning but ATS the last few years. I think their offense will be all right, and against Northwestern defense that has some upgrades in some spots. So it shows with this total. I don't think we're going to get a bunch of points. And maybe Northwestern can hang. I think the value's a little bit gone with Northwestern. But still, I think this game could be close in the end.
All right, Mississippi State and Southern Miss, a good old non-conference in-state battle here. We got Mississippi State 11.5-point road favorites, 61.5 the total in this game. Money's come in on the home dog. I could see it. And I like Mississippi State to be improved with this year. Jeff Lebby, another year in the system with him as head coach. I definitely expect improvement from them. And Blake Shapen, a healthy Blake Shapen, can play well in this offense at quarterback here for Mississippi State. I think the offensive line is going to be good. The offense is going to be very good. Defense was horrible last year, and that's obviously the area that's going to have to improve here for Mississippi State. And I think it will. But still, you're talking about laying a big number on the road, double-digit favorite against a Southern Miss team that, from a continuity and cohesion standpoint, they've got it. It's Charles Huff and the Marshall Thundering Herd basically swapping jerseys and putting Southern Miss Golden Eagle jerseys on this year. That's pretty much it. The whole Marshall team, Charles Huff takes over as head coach. The quarterback, Braylon Braxton, also goes with him here to Southern Miss. Great continuity, especially on offense. I love, Blake Anderson, as the offensive coordinator of this team. I like the hire. I know Utah State was a tough go for him there as head coach, but OC, he's going to play. By the way, this is going to be a fast-paced offense. It's going to be a throw it, run it, play with tempo. That's the way it's going to be under Blake Anderson. Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby, again, air raid system. They'll play fast. Certainly feels like a shootout waiting to happen here in this game. So I understand why the total has gone from 57.5 all the way up to 61.5. That's a 4-point move, but I can't argue with it. I think it's an over. A lot of people think Southern Miss, a little bit of a dangerous team in the Sun Belt, under the radar. It could be a much improved team because of all the familiarity, continuity they're going to have. Defense, I think, should be improved. Now, again, you're talking about Southern Miss team that had some issues on defense, but still should be better. So there's reasons to think here, and the teams like this are going to be extra amped up. Not that Mississippi State won't, but when it's a SEC team and it's an in-state team like this coming to your home field, you're going to get amped up to play. So I think there's reasons to want to back Southern Miss here at 12.5 as home dogs. And I like this over. I think I like the total even more than the side in this game. C-Mac, what do you think? Mississippi State, Southern Miss.
Yeah, I think it can get there too. Even with, you're at 61, that it can get over. I mean, there's a lot to take, but there's so much they brought in, like you mentioned, from Marshall, because the defense was horrible for Southern Miss. Both these defenses are tough, even though I think they're going to be improved. And there's just no way Mississippi State can lay these points. I agree. Take Southern Miss here. And heck, 2 teams from Mississippi too. You know what I mean? We have a few of these smaller schools playing in-state rivalry. So, somewhat big brother, little brother. So I think Southern Miss can hang in this game. And I lean over. I know it's not, even at 61, I think this game is in the 30s. Yeah. You thought, something like that, at least 38-30 type game.
I agree with you there. All right, Georgia State and Ole Miss. We've got Ole Miss 35.5-point favorites, 60.5 the total here in this game. I never thought we'll see. Well, first of all, we'll start with Ole Miss. Obviously, Jackson Dart gone, and we know, obviously, the great college career he had. We know, obviously, the loss it might be without him. Let's see what Austin Simmons can provide, who's going to be the new starting quarterback here for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. He was in the program last year, got into 7 games, 32 pass attempts, 59% completions, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he knows the Lane Kiffin system. That's the good sign going into this game for sure, or going into this season. So that's the positive here for Ole Miss. When you look at the Ole Miss team last year, it was a season where, they lose, obviously, an NFL-bound quarterback. It won't be the easiest thing to replace. What are you going to get? It's the same damn shit every year. It seems like we ask this every year of Ole Miss. What are you going to get on defense from them? So at times last year, they looked like a really good defense, and then there were times where it's just like, whoa, getting carved up.
Early on, they were pretty good.
And a tale of 2 seasons. You got it. Early in the year, they looked pretty solid on defense, and I don't know what happened, but second half of the season, things kind of sputtered for them. We'll have to see on that side of the football. Will Georgia State be the kind of offense to really test them early in the season? That remains to be seen for sure. What I would say is that I'm a little bit I did not expect in 2025 college football to see the name Hugh Jackson start to appear again on a coaching staff. But here he is as offensive coordinator here for this Georgia State team. Del McGee now in his 2nd year. Obviously, there's a program kind of starting over. 3-9 last year. They only won 1 game in Sun Belt Conference play. So I don't want to lay Ole Miss here, 35.5 with replacing your quarterback. Still some questions on defense. And Georgia State, though, they're going to be run heavy. That's not always a good recipe if you're going to be run heavy on the road against an SEC team, even if Ole Miss has defensive questions. So it's going to be run heavy. They're also going to play a lot slower, you got to believe, because Hugh Jackson's going to bring run heavy pro-style offense here to Georgia State. So that definitely makes me think maybe the total's just a bit high. And Christian Veillere, and he's Canadian. He's going to be the quarterback. I cheer for him. I want him to do well, but he's a mixed bag of, he sometimes he looks great, and then other times, it's rough. So I got to see more from Christian Veillere at quarterback for Georgia State. So I could lean under here. I could, because it could be a little bit of a bumpy start for the lane train on offense, replacing Jackson Dart. Defense, I think, in this kind of a matchup can hang in there, because Georgia State's going to be kind of scattershot passing game. They're going to run the football a lot. And then on the flip side here with the Georgia State offense could have its struggles moving it consistently. So, like I said, maybe I lean under here a little bit, but not a game I bet, and probably not a game I will bet. C-Mac, what do you think? Georgia State, Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'll be quick. We got to get going to some of these ones in this game. I think you get 7 touchdowns. Like, I'd look at only Ole Miss's team total. I just don't think the improvement is going to be there for Georgia State's defense.
Yeah, that's the
issue.
I mean,
just one of the worst. Like, it seems like Ole Miss, I think, can get just about to 50 in this game. I think they'll be all right. This is a game where we have to deal with any kind of the new quarterback, all that. I think this is kind of the easy walkthrough type games, the cupcake you get to start the year. So when I was looking at it, I think just if you want Ole Miss, maybe them first half, or just look at their team total in this game.
All right, Alabama, Florida State. There's a lot I like in this game. Alabama, 13-point road favorites, 50.5 the total. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I think it is a big-time bounce back. Second season for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. I think they're going to really improve. Ty Simpson's the quarterback. I think it's more of a quarterback that fits Kalen DeBoer. Better arm than Jalen Milroe, who he takes over from. And what I love the most is Ryan Grubb is back with Kalen DeBoer on the coaching staff as offensive coordinator. These two together as coach and OC at Washington, and Michael Penix Jr. knows that very well, how great it was. They really helped Michael Penix's development, and that offense was lethal. I think they kind of get back to that Alabama offense. With Ty Simpson, I think he'll do well. And we know Florida State's defense just fell off the damn cliff last year. Horrible on the defensive side of the football was Florida State. So I think it's an opportunity for Alabama right away. Hit the ground running, score points, get this offense going. Grubb and DeBoer reunited. And I think that's going to be certainly a big help for them. Pressure's on Mike Norvell. Everything fell apart last year, 2-10 overall. Scrambling now to make new coordinators, trying to save himself, I guess, because he one more bad season and they might make a coaching change here at Florida State. Gus Malzahn, the new OC. Tony White, the new defensive coordinator. I will say this, I like the defensive coordinator hire. Tony White, pretty solid. Malzahn's a solid hire too, but with him, you're talking about a guy now that's had some tough, run at UCF as a head coach, now trying to get back on track here in an OC role with Florida State. Looks like they're going to play a little bit brisk tempo. That's usually the way it is, but it'll be a run-oriented, run-first, spread, up-tempo offense for Florida State. That's always the way it's been with Gus Malzahn coordinating the offenses. What are we going to get at quarterback, too, from Florida State? Thomas Castellanos. Here we go for Florida State, transferring in from Boston College. Castellanos is a running quarterback, and that's good in the Malzahn system. He wants his quarterbacks to run quite often. But again, passing and accuracy still kind of comes and goes here for Castellanos, but he does have experience. So maybe he can do enough to chip in offensively, because I think the over's in play, 50.5. I expect big things out of the Alabama offense. Florida State will play with some pace. Castellanos may not be most accurate, but he fits Malzahn's system of offense well. And I could see Florida State chipping in enough offense for the over. I don't know if they'll chip in enough offense to cover the number, though. I think Alabama 38-17 is kind of what I see in this game. Goes over the total. Alabama gets mid to high 30s, and Florida State does enough to send it over. So there you go. Alabama and the over for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Alabama takes care of business here, unless one thing early, with Simpson, maybe struggles or there's some turnovers, but I think, with the offense around him, make it work. Don't go too crazy and, take your shots. But Horton, of course, Williams, they have great wideouts. Miller's a solid running back. And the biggest thing is like Florida State. Is this defense really improved? I mean, it's Florida State. I don't know. Like, I gotta see it. 2 eyes right here. I gotta see it because that was the biggest thing. As much as their offense struggled too, but just to see them get by kind of average teams, it seemed like just to score on them. Memphis, some of those games I remember early on. So, and Castellanos, he can run. He can be turnover prone too. He's more of the dink and dunk underneath type guy. So I don't know if they're really going to be stretching the field against Bama's defense. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's Bama here pass to start. Roll
All right, good stuff. All right, next up, UTSA meet the Roadrunners taking on Texas A&M. Aggies 24.5-point home favorites, 56.5 the total in this game. It'll be interesting with A&M because they are obviously fans of the coach, Mike Elko, second year now here at A&M. I guess, there was high expectations last year. I guess you could say maybe just a little bit they underachieved those expectations. It's going to come down to when you look at A&M, some of the bigger games, defense didn't perform up to snuff. And when you look at the quarterback situation, they're going to hope Marcel Reed, for A&M is going to be the guy that ends up hitting for them at the quarterback spot this year. It'll be interesting if that is going to be the case, and he's going to be able to take that next positive step forward for A&M. Because again, it's another one of these classic cases where with Marcel Reed, very athletic, can move in the pocket, but at the same point in time, the O-line's got concerns. How will he manage that going into the year? That's going to be something to monitor. And again, just got to get a little more accurate in the pocket. We know you're athletic and all that, but and another thing too to watch out for here, Le'Veon Moss was a big-time running back for them. And when he was in there, the offense was a lot better. And when he was out, they were losing, and the offense stagnated. So his health is going to be paramount this year for A&M as far as him staying healthy at running back for them, no doubt. He's got to cut down on the mistakes, obviously, does Marcel Reed, no question. The receiving core actually should be solid, especially getting Concepcion coming in from NC State. That definitely should help the receiving core quite a bit for A&M. But again, that O-line is a mild concern, and we'll see how it fares going into the year. The defensive side of the football here for Texas A&M should be solid, right? 8 starters are back. They were, 22.2 points per game last year was solid. We'll see how they fare here this year. The front 7 in particular should be solid. Secondary's got a few more concerns, which could matter here because you flip it around to UTSA, and Owen McCown's got an arm. He's got a football pedigree from a football family, obviously. And I expect him to have a good year. And that UTSA offense by far is their strength. They're going to have a very good offense. I like the receiving core. The O-line's very good. They got running backs that can run it. Defense is a different story. They are probably going to take a step back, UTSA, on the defensive side of the football. And I guess that would be concerning, whether they're going to be able to slow down A&M here a little bit. But they have an offense that, and again, when I'm talking about considering a big underdog, I'm more in the camp of I'd rather have the big dogs score points and be good on offense rather than
football,
because they can get that late score when they're down by 27 or 28 with 2 minutes left. I can get a team like UTSA with a very experienced, solid-armed quarterback like Owen McCown punching in a late touchdown for me. So as you can tell, I'm leaning to UTSA above this key number of 24 here in this first game against A&M. CMAC, what do you think here? UTSA, Texas A&M.
Yeah, like if they cover, that's what I was looking at in this game. The offense is going to score, so that leads me to the over because I think A&M is going to be able to score. They could have struggles with Reed down the line, but they should be able to score on this UTSA defense and everything they have. And they have enough weapons. I mentioned Moss, Thomas, the running backs. So I think they'll be able to score. So it was kind of when I was looking at, if you like A&M, look to their team total. I think they can get there in the end of this game. And it's moved their way. Like, is this now too much? So A&M's been good. UTSA at times gets some of these big teams have been flat a little bit the last few years. Good football team, get drubbed by, Texas, some of the bigger schools. So I don't know. That's maybe I was going through that a little bit in this handicap. But McCown, I mean, he can, throw it around. And A&M's got a very good defense. But it seems like if they could score, they scored 14-21. This game's going over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you as far as the over. I'm a little lukewarm on the over simply because of A&M's O-line status, but I still
like this under 56. Tell you that much.
Yeah, there you go. If it falls to 56 or lower, you'll like it definitely.
I like it a lot better. Yeah,
total for sure. All right, Missouri State, a new entry into FBS football. By the way, the Missouri State Bears. It's their first season in FBS Division I college football this year in Conference USA, taking on USC. We've got USC 35.5-point home favorites, 59.5 the total. This will be at the Coliseum. I think what could be, and this is, here's where I stand with UFC. I got to see more from Jaden Maiava. I'm not there yet with proclaiming him the next great USC quarterback. I need to see more. Obviously, look, when you've got Eli Sanders and Wayne Jordan are solid at running back, Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, I mean, they do have good receivers, USC. The one thing to note with USC is the O-line is probably as questionable as they've had entering the season in any recent memory. That offensive line, we'll have to see how it gels for Lincoln Riley coming into the year. Now, the defense was terrible 2-3 years ago. But last year, they did make big strides forward and improvement under DeAnton Lynn. People are starting to see, wow, it's a pretty good hire, DeAnton Lynn, and what he's been able to bring for this defense. And on paper, the defense could even be better this year than last year. So take another step forward here for Danton Lynn here as the DC. So that's something to watch for in this game. One thing I'm going to look it up because just off the top of my head, when I'm saying Lincoln Riley and non-conference play lay big numbers, they haven't always been phenomenal in this type of situation. And it'll be interesting to see how it, because I remember the first game 2 years ago, they played San Jose State and they didn't cover that game and they were laying 31. That's the one that stands out a couple years ago. They were 31-point home favorites against San Jose State and they won 56-28. They did play a lot better in the second half. But I know in the first half of that game, it was a struggle. It was 21-14 USC at halftime. It was a 7-point game. And here's the thing with Missouri State that a lot of people who don't do the proper research and digging won't know. They'll say, hey, it's Missouri State. They're new in the FBS. They're in Conference USA. They suck. Bet against them. This quarterback is a tall quarterback. He's a good quarterback. His name is Jacob Clark. He's been here for a long time. He's pretty good. And I'm very much interested in a Missouri State bet here in the first half, where it could be one of these deals where there's not a lot of film out there, certainly not at the FBS level, because they're a new entry into football, FBS football in Division I. I could see Jacob Clark and that Missouri State Bears offense maybe taking USC by surprise early. And, they have some weapons. The O-line's, again, not bad. They're going to be up against it because you're playing a Big Ten team, but still. O-line solid, and defense is the concern for Missouri State. They're definitely weaker on that side of the football entering the year. But offensively, you could even, if you're concerned about the defense, not just first half spread on Missouri State, you could go first half team total over on Missouri State. I might even do that because I do worry about the defense, but I like Jacob Clark. Everything I've seen and read is that he's a pretty solid quarterback. I think he'll be have a good season. And USC, I still think of that game 2 years ago, Lincoln Riley at home against San Jose State. 31-point favorite. They were leading by 7 at halftime, a very slow start. So maybe a first half, Missouri State. I'm very much interested. I've got that circled. 20, what's the point spread here? Let me see. Missouri State first half. 21.5 with Missouri State first half, plus 21.5. I could see them covering that. I'm not banking on USC being an ultra-fast starter. C-Mac here in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll be because of their defense. If they do, SC's defense and how much better it really is. I just think SC, as Missouri State could get theirs, like SC is going to be able to score here. I think it will, for the most part. I mean, Missouri State's defense was that bad. Yeah. They were good. Like they had a nice last year. We thought they would be horrible, but they were pretty good, and they did it with that offense. Though they kind of gave up points like Youngstown, Indiana State, Northern Iowa, all these teams, Murray State. Now, when they played South Dakota State, they lost 45-9, to end the year. So a little bit of a step up there. But I just think in the end, SC will kind of get what they want in this game. So there's just no way, with them, with Lincoln Riley, the defense to lay points with them. You just think they get their team total, or this game gets over because Missouri State can do their part as well a little bit here.
This is always the week 1 show hitting the books, the longest show we'll do all year because there's so many weeknight games, way more than any other week, and that's why the games list is longer. But we have reached the last 5 games. We are coming down the home stretch here. And next up, we've got LSU and Clemson, one of the big ones coming up. Saturday night, ABC. This is your Fowler and Herb Street game, ABC on Saturday night. We've got Clemson 3.5-point favorites, 57.5 the total in this game. You're out to lunch. You need your brain checked. If you think for a minute, I'm taking LSU in a season opener. That's all there is to it. How many times do we have Brian Kelly and LSU screw up in the first game of the year? Now, I will say this before I just go on my soapbox about don't trust Brian Kelly and LSU first game of the year because he's been terrible in these situations. Talent-wise, they're as good as they've been under Brian Kelly this year across the board. There's no doubt. There's a lot of talent here. And Nussmeier, you would expect to play well. He's a very experienced quarterback. They're saying the defense on paper, it's as talented as it's been in a long time, but I still got to see it. Year after year, we keep calling for LSU to play better on defense, and year after year, they keep underachieving, and year after year, they keep disappointing. That's still something that I would be concerned about with the LSU Tigers going into this season. Supposed to be better, but again, let's see it actually play out on the field for the LSU Tigers. Clemson, of course, Cade Klubnik, another one that both of these quarterbacks, really, they're in contention for the Heisman, but certainly Cade Klubnik is. He's got a lot to work with. The O-line is tremendous on paper, experienced, loaded, very, very strong O-line for this Clemson Tigers team. There shouldn't be much issues there running the football for them this year. And obviously, they've got pretty solid weapons led by Antonio Williams and Brian Wesco at the receiving core. So that offense should be great. We saw Cade Klubnik really take big strides second half of the year. He played very good. His best football of his career was second half of last year. And even in the loss against Texas in the playoff, you can't fault Cade Klubnik. He played pretty well. They moved the football. They just couldn't stop Texas. And that's the difference for Clemson this year. Their defense should be a lot better. Take that next step and improve. I expect that. Dabo Swinney certainly seems to think his defense on all 3 levels has the potential to be better than it was last year. The only issue is you could have gotten below 3 last year with Clemson. All spring and summer, this point spread was like 2.5, 3. And now it's 3.5. There's even some 4s for a bit, but this is still a one-way game for me. Clemson or pass. It's a mild lean to the over, too, just because I think Clemson will move the ball. LSU is still, I think, a little ahead of the schedule offensively than defensively, so I would lean over this total. I think LSU games, more often than not, these first games for Kelly have been high scoring, so lean over, and it's Clemson or pass for me. C-Mac, it's a great one Saturday night, one of the big ones. What do you think, LSU Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, both these teams are loaded, tons of talent.
No doubt.
Both sides of the ball here. I think if you like Clemson too, you touched on that with the number, take the money line if you don't mind the juice. If you like, or maybe this will be like a parlay type play if you're a little bit worried of now that it's at 4, 3.5, 4, 4.5, whatever it's at now. So yeah, I can't trust LSU here on the road. Nussmeier, he's like, I don't know. He's just a solid college quarterback. I trust him late in games. Nope. I've seen him struggle in fourth quarters. There's some question marks with the offensive line a little bit. They've lost some receivers, but I think Anderson and Brown are pretty good. They've already had some, need to step up. The running back Durham's good. Where I think can they be better is defense. Touchdown. I mean, they've always had these great athletes, but it really hasn't worked out for LSU. Weeks is all SEC, very good.
I like the hire of Tom
first.
Allen, new defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
and Tom Allen. Yeah, is he again head coach? And he was actually had a good year or two at Indiana, but defensive coordinators, this thing. I think it was a nice hire by Dabo there.
They got from Florida transfers for the D line. Last year Perkins missed, but he's back. He's an all SEC for LSU. So it's all shows her that they should be better, but we'll see. And then on Clemson, Nick, yeah, he's pretty good. I thought he played a lot better second half of the year. Another guy though in big games that you got to see a little bit more. But this is a team, from hearing everybody that likes Memphis or around, this is one of their best teams in probably 5 years, maybe. Since Watson, maybe those type teams, the national championship teams. So I got to see it. I think the defense will be good. They have a bunch of great players here on defense that's pretty stacked up. Should be able to stop the run. I think they could do that here. So I think this game's good. I think Clemson wins it, in the end. So I was talking about. It's just you want to lay the 4. I have it. So that's it here. I ain't going to bullshit you if I bet it. I have it.
I certainly I'm not betting it at this number because I bet that was one of the first bets I made in the offseason was Clemson. I just took money line at -140 like months ago when the point spread was around 2.5. So I got money line -140 on Clemson, and like I said, I bet that a pretty good handful of months ago there as far as this game.
Big game too, Kelly. He's just not. It's like him and Franklin are just
big games, and especially
no bets.
Openers.
Yeah.
He's lost every opener under LSU as LSU head coach. The 2 against
he's probably going to go berserk on the sideline.
2 against Florida State and then 1 against USC since he's been head coach. Yeah, we'll see him pounding the table again. Again, we've lost this game like he did last year. That would not surprise me. All right, our last Saturday game. Here it is, California and Oregon State. Oregon State 1.5-point home favorites, 50.5 the total in this game. I like the Beavers here. Good home field, Reser Stadium, obviously, here in Corvallis. It's usually a pretty solid home field edge for them. Cal's got question marks to me. Talked about how I like Fernando Mendoza going to Indiana. Well, Cal loses him, at quarterback, and they're probably going to feel the effects of that going into this season when you look at it. And, I'm a big fan, don't get me wrong, of Justin Wilcox. But like I said, I think when you see this Cal team, there is a decent amount of question marks here at the moment with them. How are they going to handle to me, it's a quarterback downgrade until proven otherwise because Jaron Kiawe Sagapolutele is how you say that. It's a mouthful, but that is his name. JKS, I think, is what we're going to start calling him. But Jaron Kiawe Sagapolutele has won the quarterback job here for California. They like him. They think he's got a great arm. I don't mind the choice, though, because the guy competing with him was the Devin Brown, who transferred from Ohio State, and I'm not a Devin Brown fan, so I think, hey, give this guy a chance, because Devin Brown I don't think is your answer for Cal at quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. Oregon State, like I said, a tough first year. You got to start from scratch with post Jonathan Smith. Not easy at all. Lost a lot of personnel. It was definitely a rebuilding season for Oregon State last year. But now you're going to get your second year for Trent Bray. And all things considered, to almost make a bowl game and still win 5 or 7 go 5-7 last year with that amount of turnover, roster-wise, was not bad by Trent Bray, quite honestly, last year. And in fact, down the stretch, they started to play some better football, did this Oregon State Beavers team. So I like them here close to a pick 'em at home. Malik Murphy, transfer from Duke, is going to become their starting quarterback this year. I think the defense, which did show signs of improvement down the stretch, will continue to show that improvement this year as well. Meanwhile, Cal, we know they're a team that they've been good on defense in the past, but certainly we saw
shaky last year.
No doubt about it. Not that same, and Wilcox defensive guy, but not that same defense at all from Cal last year. And again, last year, Oregon State started the year with just one starter back, but we saw the improvement as the season went on. And now the front seven looks very good. The D-line's got almost everybody back. The linebacking core is solid. Yeah, some questions in the secondary, but the front seven looks very, very stout, very solid for Oregon State. So I think at a close to pick them at home, or Connor Mack, give me Oregon State here. I think they get it done. What do you think here, Cal, Oregon State?
Yeah, I like Oregon State. It's just tough. Cal always struggles, going to Oregon. It's just not easy. They just lose. This is flipped. Oregon State at Cal, I think it'd be a little bit different. Both these teams, a bunch of stuff going on in and out, especially with Cal. I think it's going to take some time with them. And can the defense be better? They have a few really good players, but I got to see it a little bit more. And some of these transfers that they got, a receiver, can Cal and running back really step up right away? I think there's some big question marks here. What I like to Oregon State is Malik Murphy, like you talked about. And they got good wide receivers here. Walker, Hankerson, I think they look to them. These might be guys I think props that I'll be looking at. Amana, I think they could really, really be good. And with Malik Murphy there. So I definitely like it. Now they have some trouble offensive line. Oregon State's a little bit patchy, but I don't think it's going to be huge. We'll see if they can work that out as the year goes on. So Beavers, I like them.
All right, we agree. We like Oregon State there. All right, on to a Sunday college football doubleheader this weekend. You always get Sunday, Monday games. Labor Day weekend, that first weekend of the season, which is also the last weekend before NFL starts. So that's why you see college games on a Sunday and Monday. We got Virginia Tech and South Carolina. South Carolina, 7.5-point home favorites, 52.5 the total is at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, Sunday afternoon. So love it. We finally got a good Sunday afternoon game on Labor Day weekend. Usually they only give us a Sunday night game, but this year they've given us a Sunday afternoon game as well. Virginia Tech, last year, going into the year, I was very, very excited about Kyron Drones, the quarterback. Now I'm just like yawning. It's like, he did not take off like I thought he would last year for Virginia Tech. And, again, maybe another year experience going to help for him leading them at quarterback for Virginia Tech. But again, I thought there was just underwhelming results from him and really from the whole Virginia Tech offense, at times last year. So, improvement's going to need to be made. And again, you're playing against a South Carolina team that isn't going to make it easy. And there's a big time pressure right now, big time pressure on Brent Pry. Now in his fourth season as head coach here for Virginia Tech, it kind of feels like this is a kind of a make it or break it season for him. And that is going to be interesting to see how that goes. And as you can tell with a coach on the hot seat, we've seen this with some of the other teams we've talked about. What do you do when you're on the hot seat and you're feeling the pressure? You throw your coordinators under the bus, of course, and you hire new ones. And that's exactly what he did here at Virginia Tech. Yes. With Philip Montgomery becoming his new offensive coordinator and Sam Seifkes becoming his defensive coordinator. So we got brand new coordinators. We'll see how that goes. The offensive line, it should be better, and it's going to need to be because at times the quarterbacks took a pounding, including Drones, and Drones is mobile, but still the O-line was so bad even he still took a pounding last year, and that's going to be interesting to see if that group can shore things up and improve as the season goes on. Obviously, they've got Terrion Stewart, Marcellus Hawkins at running back, Aiden Green, Donovan Green, and Cameron Selden, their top receivers. Not bad as far as the skill position goes. The offensive line, though, he hired Matt Moore to shore up that OC, and let's see if he can, or that shore up that O-line, I should say, and let's see if he's able to do that, because that's what it's going to come down to. I think Drones can have a good year. This offense can have a good year if that offensive line improves. The defensive side of the football for Virginia Tech last year, it was just not. It was actually okay. Believe it or not, it was middle of the pack, and 22.8 points per game. It wasn't that bad at all. And remember, Brent Pry comes from the defensive side of the coaching tree, if you will, defensive coach by trade. He went portal heavy for the D-line and the secondary linebacking core, but the defense actually could be solid, steady for Virginia Tech. We'll see if they're able to get off to a good start here in a tough opener on the road against South Carolina and a quarterback that certainly has the potential to at times be electrifying when you're talking about, of course, Lenora Sellers. Now, again, great athleticism, great mobility. Nobody denying that. But again, got to get a little more consistency with down to down, throwing the football. And again, durability is going to be a question for him because, the arm, the athleticism, but he suffered that ankle injury last year. And again, being able to stay healthy is going to be paramount here for this offense with Lenora Sellers leading it. The receiving core looks solid. The O-line looks pretty decent. It'll be interesting to see Mike Shula, the new offensive coordinator, here as well for South Carolina because their old one went to App State. Dowell Loggins as the head coach. Defense was very good last year, no doubt, but 6 players gone from that group. It's going to be tough to replace. The D-line definitely is going to have some significant turnover personnel-wise. The linebacking core does look solid. It'll be interesting to see. So the defense probably does take a little bit of a step back from the very solid group they had last year. This is a very interesting game. 7.5 with Shane Beamer. I've always said this about South Carolina under him. I'd rather take points than lay points with South Carolina. It's often been that way. But here's the problem, C-Mac, with taking Virginia Tech. They stink in close games. And this point spread is in a range where 7.5 indicates it's probably going to be a close game. Could be a one-score game. Well, Brent Pry and Virginia Tech have not just been bad. They have been putrid, horrific in one-score games. They can't find ways to win these close games, Virginia Tech. So that is my fear of taking the points with them. Kind of lean that way, but like I said, I think for these two teams, I'd rather get a gauge of them, look for something live in this game. From a total standpoint, the total's gone up big time. 45.5 all the way to 52. That's a big move in this total. I think certainly at the opener it was a little bit light. It'll be interesting to see what kind of offensive principles Virginia Tech goes with this season. And again, Lenora Sellers can be a big strike. I think part of it too is Philip Montgomery, who of course was OC at Auburn, OC at Baylor, head coach with Tulsa for years. He always played fast. And there probably will be a tempo increase for Virginia Tech this year under Philip Montgomery. That probably has played a role in this total climbing as much as it has. But now the question is, do you want to bet it still over the total with this much of a move, with it now sitting at 52? C-Mac, what do you think? Virginia Tech, South Kakalaki.
Yeah, you know what? One thing with South Carolina at home, I don't really want to lay points with them. We'll see about with the defense that's come in and out. I think the offense will be solid. I think they'll be able to run the football here. They should have some, success and throw it. But Virginia Tech, but you know why I like them here is you're over a touchdown here. This team can't win games. You're right. Then there's some bad losses in some of these games. They played well, I thought, on the road, even though they lost the Miami game. They were
but big. They covered as road. Road dogs was a good role. I agree with you.
It was a good role, but they lost to Duke, but that was even short. It was 2.5, depending on what number you got, I guess. At Syracuse, they lost by a touchdown. I think the game's just tight here. In the end, I think they can run the ball. Drones, I know he can be a handful. The guy's so athletic. At other times, you're like, what is he doing? It's just like comical. But I think they can do enough in a game. Everyone loves South Carolina here at home. Big money all over, and this line just keeps coming down from 9, 8, 7. As long as you're over the touchdown, I think we got a tight game. South Carolina wins is probably close.
All right, next up, Sunday night, Notre Dame and Miami. We've got Notre Dame 2.5-point road favorites, 49.5 the total in this game. This total's come down 5.5 points, actually 4.5 points, 54 down to 49.5. CJ Carr winning the quarterback battle for Notre Dame. Kind of expected it would be him. Obviously, Riley Leonard departs for the NFL. CJ Carr getting the nod over the man he was battling with, Kenny Minchey, for that spot. And, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. CJ Carr, by the way, not that this is kind of a meaningless or, not meaningless, but it doesn't help us with our betting and our handicapping, but he's actually the grandson of former Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr. You remember Lloyd Carr from back in the day. This is his grandson, CJ, who is now about to be the quarterback here for Notre Dame this season. So he's the quarterback. The offensive line, it seems like every year now, the last couple, we've talked about injuries to start the year for Notre Dame on the O-line, and it's looking like we're starting to see a few again pop up here in spring and fall camp. So that's definitely something to be mindful of going into this game. Is you're talking about a brand new starting quarterback, an offensive line that, we'll see. But again, a little bit banged up. Potentially, it looked like from what I read here going into this game, lost, a couple. One guy for sure is out, and another one is very questionable. So, like I said, keep an eye on this situation closer to Sunday night when this game starts. But certainly, that is a little bit of a mild concern I would have for Notre Dame heading into this season. Even though Marcus Freeman's a hell of a coach and he's become very good at plugging holes, there's no question about that. If this O-line can still manage to play well, even with the concern with some couple injuries, they've got a great running back tandem, obviously. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. Saw them in the playoffs last year, how well they played for Notre Dame, helping them get to that championship game. They're going to have a really good group of receivers. Malachi Fields comes in. He should be an excellent receiver for this Notre Dame Fighting Irish team. Like I said, the offensive line is probably the biggest concern, especially when you want to run the football a lot and probably take pressure off CJ Carr. You want to get Price and Love going. Can the offensive line be good enough here is going to be the question. Defensively, we know how great it was, obviously, last year for Notre Dame. Phenomenal defense. But Al Golden was a big part of that, the architect, and he's now in the NFL with Cincinnati trying to fix that defense. And so Chris Ash takes over as the new defensive coordinator here. And you do lose some talent. Jack Kaiser, Xavier Watts, a couple others gone. A lot of other contributors gone. So, again, with 7 starters back, but you did lose, a decent amount of key personnel. So we'll see how that Notre Dame goes. That being said, they like a lot of what they brought in. They really like a lot of the new faces that are going to be on that defense. So, maybe early they struggle a bit, but I don't think they're going to drop off a ton, maybe a little, but I think they're still going to be a very good defense, Notre Dame, from all I've seen. And then on the other side, Miami, here's the thing. Carson Beck, what are we going to get? Total disappointment last year, right from the beginning with Georgia. Now, you're going to have to change of scenery helps. Just being somewhere else, not being against SEC defenses every week is going to help him out. Problem is, Notre Dame has an SEC caliber defense. At least last year it did. So can you really expect Carson Beck to just light up Notre Dame first game of the season? I'm not ready to buy into that. I'm not getting sold that bill of goods. And you can't deny it from one pillar to post that there is a huge coaching advantage for Notre Dame. I will take Marcus Freeman every day of the week and Sundays over who, Mario Cristobal, who screws up so much, who is, like I say, recruits, but X's and O's, adjustments, game plan, coaching acumen, in-game decisions, clock management, as pathetic for him, as pathetic as I've ever seen of NFL or head coach in college, for that matter, from Cristobal these last few years. So
he just freezes up.
Yes.
This guy's so strange.
And
he's just
in a spot like this, C-Mac, and look, Notre Dame banged up O-line a little bit, new quarterback, couple new defense, maybe a slight step back. There's reasons to be scared of laying points on the road with Notre Dame and expecting them to win. I get all that. But Miami with Beck, Miami with a defense that should be better, but still it was an awful, awful defense last year. And I'm going to have to see it before I believe it. And then you you're going to tell me with all off season to prepare for this fucking game, Marcus Freeman, I'm going to give him that edge every single bit of the time over Mario Cristobal to get a team ready with all months upon months, all off season to get ready for this game. Which coach do I trust to have his team more prepared? I don't think you have to. You're not splitting the atom figuring that one out. Let's put it that way. And for me, it's Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. So I still like him. I still like Notre Dame. Do I love it? No, but I like it. Below a field goal, enough to still endorse the Irish here. Because I don't trust Miami and I don't trust their coach. And I don't even trust Carson Beck. I got to see it from him too. C-Mac, what do you think? Notre Dame, Miami.
Yeah, I mean, this game too is just a wait for me a little bit, and I don't know if it drops because everything you see from Miami's defense last year is awful. But they were somewhat in the numbers better against the run. I mean, the secondary was it. They were just awful. Can Kari take advantage of that? Because when I see this, I want the under. To tell you the truth, I just think this game, but it's just a little bit low, and I got to do a little bit more digging. I wanted to wait on this game too.
Well, here's
just
the thing.
because
you've got 3 of the 4 units working in your favor, I think, if you like the under. Because I think Notre Dame's offense is going to maybe struggle a little bit as they implement, O-line.
Yeah, O-line. They want to run it with Love, of course.
The Notre Dame defense will help you because I think it's still going to be very good. And we don't trust Carson Beck fully and this Miami offense. We think post Cam Ward, they're going to take a big step back on offense this year with Beck. But the one concern, the 1 out of the 4 units that you're concerned about with an under is that Miami defense. That's still the area you're worried about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I can't do it. Like Notre Dame, even seems like they could still score 28 on this team. You know what I mean? Just from what we saw last year, and any decent team got against them. So, and that means they would Notre Dame would shut down Miami. So, as of now, I'm off. Like Notre Dame, their O-line you talked about, they still have Love. I think that's what they're going to do, and work in Carr a little bit during the game. So that could just be slow. Maybe it's a little bit slow early, and maybe it's a game I look to bet live a little bit. Yeah, Cristobal. I mean, it's a little bit different spot. Miami's dogs here, not huge. So, but he's a tough guy. When he's a favorite, where I stand. It's like we don't need to get that across a little bit. It's just, can this defense be any better? Beck, at times he looks all right. Like you're like, man, this guy can make. And other times, I mean, his accuracy is horrible, and the interceptions just seem. When they come in bunches with this guy.
Too mistake prone.
Yeah, he doesn't have one. He has 3, and they're all like in a half. So it's like, what the hell? That way. And Miami's lost some. They still have some talent, receivers, stuff like that. But they've lost a good amount.
O-line is good. Like Miami has O-line solid, really good, perhaps. And the skill position group looks good. It comes down to that.
It still looks pretty good.
And you are still playing a good defense on the other side.
And you're still playing. Yeah, Notre Dame 6 back, but I still think, the defense definitely the strength too. Even Notre Dame's right, their special teams too.
Great game though. That's such a fantastic, intriguing
watch.
Monday night. Yeah. Sunday night football,
sure.
College football style. Looking forward to that. Notre Dame and Miami. Still Notre Dame or pass for me, especially below a field goal, below 3. I wouldn't want to lay more than 3, but below 3, count me in. Notre Dame or pass. All right, Monday night, Labor Day, the final game. Here it is. It's the much anticipated college football head coaching debut of Bill Belichick, the hoodie, Chapel Bill, whatever nickname you want to call him. Hugh Hefner, walking around with young chicks, aka Jordan Hudson, if you want to go that route. But whatever you want to call him, he's now the head coach here of North Carolina. TCU, North Carolina, Monday night, 3.5-point road favorites for TCU, 56 the total in this game. And we both like TCU. If you go back to the Big 12 preview, we both like TCU. We like Josh Hoover at quarterback. We think the offense is going to be pretty good this year for this TCU Horned Frogs team. Defense is always the question because, again, last year they had some issues, but we expect that side of the football to be somewhat better this year for the TCU Horned Frogs. So they are a team to watch for, and they've taken a lot of money. This point spread This point spread opened, believe it or not, way back. I'm just looking back, late May, I should say. North Carolina was a 2-point home favorite. You've now got TCU, a 3.5-point road favorite here in this game. So there is a lot of, we ain't buying this bullshit and hype with Bill Belichick that arguably the greatest NFL head coach of all time is just going to swoop in here to North Carolina, clean it up, and they're going to be awesome right away. There's obviously a lot of sentiment that that is not going to happen here for North Carolina right off the hop. Like I said, I like the offense for TCU. The defense struggled last year, but it has potential to be very good here. And like I said, I didn't like Andy Avalos as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator here for TCU, certainly he's got some capabilities and a group that returns a lot, from last year. When you look at it, they were actually decent in the secondary last year. And of course, they're very good along the D-line and linebackers compared to last year as well. So, and Andy Avalos, second year now for him as DC should help that, no doubt. So I like TCU. Problem is, do I want to forget? Because I did bet them like when they were a dog, and this was a long time ago. But my goal now is that number's gone. I've got to tell you what you should be doing now with the number being 3.5. And I think at 3.5, I'd pump the brakes just a little bit. I know there's a lot of anti-North Carolina. I know it, but you're still asking a guy that had tremendous. How many years in the NFL did we hear Bill Belichick off a bye week, and how great he was off a bye week? Now again,
can the defense improve? Yeah,
right.
With him, he's a defensive guy. Yeah,
you got to act like Bill Belichick's off a bye week here, because and the bye week is the whole off season. If you're the greatest, one of the greatest coaches we've seen in the NFL in history, then I should have some level of faith and belief in you to use this entire offseason, all these months, to have a singular focus on game planning and scheming and getting your team ready for this first game of the season at home against TCU. I think that's probably worth something. And that's why I'm not saying, hey, who cares that you're getting a bad number? Go ahead and still take TCU, because I'm giving Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt here, C-Mac. You're this big-time head coach in the NFL for decades. You were very good off a bye week. You were always thought of as a coach to be leery of facing when he had a bye week with extra time to prepare. Well, this is the ultimate bye week. You've had all off season, even with all kinds of new faces, all kinds of new personnel to get ready for this game. And let's see what you can do with it, Mr. One of the greatest coaches of all time. Let's see what you can do with it here, because in theory, there's supposed to be a spot where you're supposed to do well because of your success in the NFL off a bye week. Now, the question is going to be here, there is a shit ton of new faces. Like, he really tore it down and trying to build it back up again is what Bill Belichick, and for that matter, the GM, his buddy, who's along for the ride, Michael Lombardi, who we've seen on VSiN all these years, is tasked with trying to fix this. He brings
GMs in college football. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Isn't it crazy? Yeah, welcome to the new world. But yeah, Gio Lopez. I like Gio Lopez, South Alabama, very good quarterback. But now you're going to the Power Four. Are you going to be able to bring it like you did there? That's going to end up being the question right now. And there's going to be pressure on Gio Lopez to play well. Great numbers last year. You can't deny it with South Alabama. 65% completions, 2,500 passing yards, 465 rushing yards. He can run. Great ratio, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Great numbers. But can you bring that now to the Power 4 level here for North Carolina? We know what we're going to get. Pro-style offense. He's bringing NFL concepts, NFL approach to day-to-day practices and all that. And it's going to be run the football a lot, rely on the defense, going to slow things down. It's a lot different from the offenses we saw under Mac Brown at North Carolina. So right away, my first thought was, you're going to look at unders with Bill Belichick here now at North Carolina. My only concern with that is TCU. I still think of more as an over team, but I also think of TCU this year as a team that's going to take a big step forward on defense. Like, I think Josh Hoover and the offense is going to be really good and put up points, but I think the defense could actually really take a big step this year for TCU. So I understand, CMAC, why this total has gone from 59 to 56. It's gone down a little bit, and I think there's people seeing that with Hoodie at the controls here for North Carolina. Rely more on the defense, a little more methodical on offense, and run the football more. So we'll see how that goes. I think when you look at it, they really focused on the trenches, Belichick and Lombardi, as far as improving this team. They've got a few good starters back. They also went transfer portal levy to shore up and add depth to the offensive line. We will see how that goes. They like, obviously, a couple of the weapons they have at receiver, North Carolina this year as well, including, of course, Kobe Paysour. So it'll be interesting to see. He's a very talented receiver. We'll see how that goes there for him. And, of course, Belichick, a defensive-minded coach by trade. It'll be fascinating to see if he can get this North Carolina defense to be better, because that's always where the problem was under Mac Brown, was the defense for North Carolina never was that good or good enough. And obviously you would think it's going to arrow pointing up for the defense under a guy like Bill Belichick. And when you look at it this year, there's a couple transfers that they hope will help. The D-line should be solid because the D-line is what they really put a lot of their resources into in trying to improving. I think there's a few more question marks as far as linebackers and secondary for North Carolina. I think that's where they're a little bit more vulnerable. You find a quarterback that can throw the football like a Josh Hoover, there could be some trouble against this TCU passing attack. But up front, they could be solid, North Carolina. But what I would say right now is, as a guy that bet TCU as a dog months ago, CMAC, I would lean the other way right now. What
price did you get?
Plus 1.5 on TCU.
Plus one. Right.
Yeah. Plus 1.5 on TCU. What I would say right now is I really would consider a middle right now. I am actually thinking about middling this and taking North Carolina, because the one thing I cannot overlook in my mind, maybe you guys can, because maybe it's going to be that big a fucking rebuild job for Bill Belichick here, and a guy that's obviously never coached college football before. But the one thing I can't overlook, CMAC, is the one thing I have a problem with Sonny Dykes, head coach at TCU, is I don't think he's the greatest X's and O's guy in the world. Not the greatest. And you're going to talk about these two coaches having months to prepare. I got to give some kind of an edge to Belichick. I have to, based on what we saw from him at the NFL level. And I think that's significant enough that maybe taking plus 3.5 points now has to be the way to go if you're going to bet this side. But what do you think, CMAC? It's, there's going to be a lot of people watching. It's Bill Belichick. People know him. All the friggin' headlines off the field with his young girlfriend that he's got now, kind of running his life, running his affairs right now. It's pretty hysterical to see the way Bill Belichick's personal life has gone the last couple years. Crazy. And that is going to add to it, I'm sure. But yeah, a lot of eyeballs will be on this one. Labor Day, Monday night, CMAC. What do you think? TCU, North Carolina.
I think if you like the middle, you don't mind the 3.5, but I think you get it live. I think TCU could go up and you could catch North Carolina, bigger points. We'll see. But I just think TCU should have success moving the football. That's another thing. Like, how much of this defense is going to change? I don't know. I mean, they were very good. They lost a bunch. His son, the state coordinator, is like, all right. I think he's rolling off his name.
Family members, relatives, kids, and buddies. That's who he hired on his coaching staff. That's what it's starting to feel like. Yeah. So, because one thing, most teams got to 30, even in home games for North Carolina. But James Madison scored 70 on them. They were at home, I think, in that game, weren't they? It was a home game. Oh, it was a terrible. I remember they just got embarrassed defensively last year in that game. Terrible. And that's what the team total is. I mean, it should be right at 29.5, I'm thinking. 70 points. It was a 70-50 loss September last 50. Year. Crazy. But Hoover, the guy just throws it around the yard. It's like playground style. The guy just slings it. He's got – the offensive line has a little bit of question marks, but he can move around well. And they got good receivers. McAllister's good. They got a few transfers that'll work too there. And TCU should be improved defensively. That's one I got to see. Like, people are like, this could be one of the better defenses in the Big 12.
I got to see that. Well, that's wow. Like, I don't know about that. I think middle of the pack at best.
Sonny Dykes has had one good defensive year with TCU, and it was the year they got to the championship against Georgia. And even then, a lot of their stats were misleading that year. I remember.
A little bit. Yeah, of course. So, I mean, you got that number, I think, is good because I think TCU wins this game. I just wouldn't lay the 3.5. Now, I just look to the team total. You got to think Hoovers, they're going to get enough in this game. Bottom line. But you talked about, I mean, at least it's a different game for real. It's not pro football, but he is definitely going to slow it down. He's going to run it. I mean, that for sure. I know Bill Belichick, he's going to do that. That's happening, especially with Gio Lopez here at the helm. So, but I just have him struggling. In the end, I don't think they can stop TCU. So this game, believe me, everyone will be watching it. I'll be watching it. So, I just look at TCU now with the 3.5 because I think in the end the game could be close, and I don't trust the defense that they could probably get to 30. It's just how much does North Carolina maybe slow this game down a little bit?
They will.
That's another one. Yeah, that I think they will too. But I still think this offense at TCU will be efficient enough to score on North Carolina. This would be crazy if it was just low scoring and their defense playing well early. Who knows? Maybe that young chick he's got he's brought his focus back. The X's and O's.
I like what Nuke Worker, by the way, I met him on Saturday. We were with Jimmy the Bag and company down at Woodbine Racetrack in Toronto. Great to see everybody. It was a fun day. Can't wait until Hoodie finds out his honey is blasting his quarterback.
Yeah,
wouldn't shock me.
True, it wouldn't shock me either.
She seemed at the beginning to seem like just this nice little sweet little girl, and now we're finding out she's a bit of a tyrant. Bit of a tyrant.
She knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
he's definitely not an idiot.
Yeah,
he's crazy.
Yeah, I thought maybe Bill just found this, a lot of things in common. This nice, innocent young little girl, and now we're finding out, boy, she's throwing her weight around now. Holy fuck! Look at this. Who's wearing the pants in that fucking relationship right now? I don't think it's a Hoodie.
Bill just like in that interview, he was just sitting back, like, "Hey, talk to her." Like that's what
I know. Yeah,
that's my 20-year-old broad.
She's laying the law down right now. That's probably the stipulations of the relationship. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, shout out Nuke Worker, everyone that we saw in Toronto on Saturday. Jimmy the Bag and company there, the Slatsy and Sam Calmer and Gogster, and like I said, great turnout. Mike Richards, a longtime radio guy in Toronto and Canada. So yeah, it was great to see everybody down there. That was a lot of fun on Saturday at Woodbine. All right, we have reached the end. We are finally wrapping.
We did it.
It's our longest show of the year. We'll never ever in a million years be going this long, the other shows, but this is always the longest one because there's so many games through the week, this very first week. But appreciate you hanging out. We can't give you more than this. We've given you almost 4 hours of college football for week one. If this isn't good content, in your opinion, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say at this point. Yeah. James
Give us a like.
Yeah, hit the like button. Yeah, my voice is going on me too. Look at that.
Yeah.
Talking so long. James A, Nuke Worker, Andrew G, Canes Nation, Old E. Appreciate everybody. Gorion Minkowski, Ross Pitts. Appreciate Andrew G, Jorge Herrera. Talk Sports with JT. Good to see you. Sports Money. Mike M, Chris Warren, Carlos Facenda, Team Moss, Sweet Lou, Kongs Clips. Hell of a week, 6-0 sweep for Kongs Clips in college football last week. Way to go. Great start. Timothy Haight, Colorado Bull. We appreciate everybody joining us here in the chat. That's it. We're out. There's no MLB show today. It will be.
Yeah. Do you want to give it?
But anything
back tomorrow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give it. Oh, if you guys do us a favor, shout out to the guys that already done that. Give us a like or a retweet on the show. Like that's other than the like here. Yeah, I don't think we asked for much. So if you guys could do that, or like on, just our posts on our games. But Phillies, Mets, I'm on the under 8. I don't know if there's a ton of 8s left. I think that game is low scoring. But one more here, I'll give that. If you give that a like and a retweet on X, is Orioles. Give me the Orioles. Playing better baseball at home. I'll take them here. Red Sox, lost finally, and I think kind of be a little hangover
Travel
spot.
Sunday night baseball.
Yeah, Sunday night baseball, sleep.
Before. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. But go ahead, let it rip.
I think so. Plus, they had their hands full with Baltimore just recently at Fenway.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's not a bad spot there, in my opinion, with Baltimore there. As far as for me with the card, it's not a great card tonight. There's only a couple that, I'm really loving as far as the board is concerned tonight in this game or on this card.
Fleet.
I like the over in Atlanta, Miami, just because Cabrera's kind of and Strider. I don't know what's happened to him. He's been just blown up here. 3 straight starts.
He's hittable.
Yeah, I lean Miami too. Miami in the over with that game. Braves and Marlins. Definitely am interested in those two in that. What else have we got here? I'm off Milwaukee. Milwaukee's starting to finally come back.
We said it was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Give me Hunter Green, Cincinnati, underdog here against the Dodgers as well. Cincinnati playing great. Dodgers off. They did lose the series 2-3, but they did salvage the last game yesterday to at least end the series tied with San Diego for first in the NL West. So there you go. A little bit of the Cincinnati side maybe here with Hunter Green. And Reds playing good baseball here of late. And remember, they're not out of it. They're only a couple games still out of the final wild card. So still lots on the line for the Cincinnati Reds. So I think they're worth a shot as well. That's about it. Like I said, it's not a card that I'm as in love with here tonight for MLB. There you have it. Great stuff. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Hit the like button on the way out. Enjoy the games and good luck this week. And we will be back tomorrow on Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for the MLB edition of Hitting the Books. Until then, class dismissed.
Peace.